morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg and it is the 5th day of August 2024. Welcome to our show today. We have a different lineup today. We're going to have the Fortress of Fraud coming in here from Palm Beach County, Florida, and that's going to include several different people who are going to come on and speak this morning. I'll let them introduce themselves. At 10 o'clock, we have Chris Deal back again. And I think we're going to get into this financial collapse that's currently happening right now. I don't know if you guys have been watching the financial markets out there, but Japan is a disaster, closely followed behind with China and Korea. And I used to do a decent amount of trading years ago, and I can tell you what, the first thing I would do when I got up in the morning is I would watch the Asian markets. I'd watch Asia, then I'd see what Asia had done overnight, and then I'd watch Europe, and then know that it was going to hit the United States shortly thereafter, because they're kind of a predictor of what's going on right now, and it appears to me that we've got some serious problems over in Japan. Could be due to a couple of different things, but I think it's a good thing to keep our eyes on. Then at 11 o'clock, Special or Intelligence Officer Tom Speciale is going to be on today. And we just decided we're going to let God lead this discussion to see which way it's going to go this morning, but should be pretty interesting. But with that said, I'm going to bring on Candace, Rojas, and Jeff Buongiorno. How you guys doing?
Good. Good morning.
Good morning. Sounds like we got a problem with the internet down there in West Palm. Gabriella said she has no Wi-Fi or internet down there. So we'll have to see what happens to see if more people from the Fortress of Fraud can join us. So what's going on down there?
Well, we had a little. I think we were harped with hurricanes and storms across the state, possibly. Kidding, but yeah, it's been rough. So we, the biggest
not
thing.
Kidding.
Well, hey, there are no conspiracies, right? But this is the big thing that I want, and we need to first of all recognize Palm Beach Patriots and the work that they're doing, and expose what's going on in apparently the gold standard of elections, which we know as Palm Beach residents not to be true. And Candace has been dragged out of county commissioners meetings by the police, by the sheriffs. She's been to 39 of the counties, and she's just she's killing it. And it's to the point where they're shutting our mics off when we speak on certain subjects. And that's what I know. I said I wasn't going to talk about the federal complaint that I filed. And I'm thinking that this is it's so serious right now, and it's such a simple and effective legal strategy, Donna, that I really think, and this is why I came on. I said I wasn't coming on. Number one, I want to frame what they're doing, and we call the Fortress of Fraud. This is part of it. We for 3.5 years we lobbied to decentralize the vote count, and not to have these tabulation machines. And what they did the exact opposite in Palm Beach County, and they built this bulletproof facility with bay doors. It rivals an Amazon distribution center, and it's right next to the sheriff's department, who have been following orders. I'm sure they're all good sheriffs, but they act as the elected officials. They act as their brown shirts, and they harass the citizens, and it's a huge problem. Which is what prompted me to say, hey, what's the easy, effective way? And I think people overthink and overlook at law, and we need a lawyer to do everything. But the lawyers are the ones that seem to torpedo these things. They're in their little bar mafia, and they're not going to name the people that I named in my lawsuit. And this is all public record. There's 14 of them. It starts with Mayorkas. He's the head criminal, and I think he's going to all that's going to implode on him with just everything, including the Trump assassination. And then I have the Secretary of the Social Security Administration, Martin O'Malley. And then I have the Attorney General of Florida, Ashley Moody. Now, and then it goes down. So it's a top-down approach, right? And I'm not saying that, we're going to prosecute you, right? And this is what I think you need to do in Michigan. And some folks in Georgia are going to mirror my complaint. Now, I look like a Florida man who's crazy, and I went to federal court to file a pro se complaint. But it's very basic. All I'm saying is hey, people, judge, court, look at what's going on here. There's a conspiracy, and a conspiracy doesn't have to be, the players could be negligent, right? And all I'm saying is that there's a conspiracy in Florida and laws are being broken. And here's my evidence. We want injunctive relief. And I'm telling the judge what needs to be done as a citizen, as someone on the ground who knows what's going on. I'm saying this needs to, hear me out. So you can do that in Michigan too. I mean, it's a pain to, writing that's not easy. But it can be done, and you have to adapt it to your laws. And, I'm going to give you an example, and I'm going to bounce. Let's just say that CarMax is a federal car, a dealership statewide. They have multiple locations across the country. And, the market is very tight. So they figure out a way to take the airbags out of every car, not thinking they're going to sell these airbags for $1,000. Now we can reduce the price of not that they would do this, and I love CarMax, not that they would do this, but now we can reduce the price of our cars and be more competitive. So the top level guy says to take the airbags out to the service manager, and the service manager goes to the mechanics in the shop and tells them to take all the airbags out. They don't ask why, but those mechanics, they're part of a conspiracy, whether they know it or not. It's negligence, right? So if the people that are certifying elections and they're saying, well, I was told I'm following orders. I'm not going to check residency. I'm not going to check citizenship. It's a law, and maybe they don't realize that, and they're just following orders. But, ignorance is no exception. And I'm not saying that they're criminally negligent. I'm saying it's civil, and that gives me the right, because all the lawyers say, oh, Buongiorno, he's not an attorney general. He can't bring those charges on. No, this is common law. There's going to be irreparable harm to the people if these topics aren't addressed. And it's a very simple claim. I'm saying, hey, just fix it. But if you don't fix it, then the judge is going to send civil damages your way, like $10,000 per illegal that votes under your watch, Mr. Secretary of State, Mrs. Attorney General, and all the other folks that float downstream. So it's, and you can make that injunction crafted for what's good for Michigan, but you should really file the same complaint and fast, because an injunction is an emergency. The trial, right? This could go to trial, and it could take 2 years, right? But we need that declaratory injunction. We need relief now before the election, court, or there's going to be irreparable harm to the people, to our rights, and to the country. And I think it's pretty obvious, everything I stated, in that we have a very good success possibility, and we have a judge that's fair and who has, who's basically brave and heroic, who's issued some very, by the letter of the law. It's just not political, so it seems. So, I really think my point of getting on is Michigan needs to do it like right away. Use your state constitution. What Whitmer's doing is devastating. You're not going to be, the laws that she's passing. I don't know where's like the state legislators. Why don't they think of this stuff? Why is it like some Florida man has to come up with it?
Well, I tell you what, I think it's all of us are kind of like so overwhelmed with how many things they've done wrong. It's incredible. And we get distracted at how many things they've done wrong. And all we got to do is focus on one thing. And if we land it, if we land a legal blow in that direction, it's going to fix things, whatever it is. Did you know in Michigan, now you cannot buy a pistol unless you have a CPL or a sheriff gives you the stamp of approval for buying a pistol in Michigan. The other thing that they started that was, if you're running for office, you have to provide a personal financial statement. This went into effect in May, and they are lumping everybody into this category who's running. I think it's a really bad idea, because people that are criminals know how to hide money. And it's like, what other job do you have in the world that you have to provide an employer with a personal financial statement? Now, I'm not making excuses for people who are doing the wrong thing. You can find most of this stuff up at public information anyway. So why you're having to submit it to the state is just shocking to me, other than for the fact that they're targeting. Don't they already have this stuff? I mean, they already have this stuff. So why do people have to have the extra burden to resubmit it for their approval just so that the state can turn them down. The whole thing is bullshit. And I'm gonna look at your case, because I started writing resolutions for the Constitution Party, and last week I ended up having like 5 with 10 of them on deck. And I think we're going to be able to do pro se cases outside of that. And I'm working right now on building a team to be able to do something like that. So I'll look at yours, and
Yeah,
we can find what court did you file it in?
It's in the United States federal court in the Southern District of Florida, and the judge is Aileen Cannon. You know who Aileen Cannon is? She's the one, yeah. And she already, she made rulings or orders, kind of like rules of what's going to happen. And she's basically, I think, taking some, I don't want to say too much, but she's just, I guess maybe she's being proactive to some, to weed out any funny business that the plaintiffs might try. That's just my personal opinion. But let Candace tell her story. Hopefully the rest can join. It's very compelling. She's, they treat her like an insect, and it just kills me. And and it really does. So I'm going to bounce.
Good job, Jeff. I'm going to bring Sandy Kiesel in here a minute, because Sandy is in the backstage. Hey, Sandy, how you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Good.
All right,
these are election integrity warriors right here. You have a great day.
Hi, bye, Sandy.
Yep. Bye-bye. Thanks for everything you're doing.
Bye-bye. So, morning, Sandy. How you doing?
Morning. Well, how about you?
Doing good. Well, I don't know if you know Candace, but Candace is part of the Palm Beach Patriots, and they're doing poll watching and some other things down there. And I wanted to have her tell her story about what's going on there a little bit. And glad you could join us today. There's so much we can always love talking with you. I mean, we're girlfriends here, so that's kind of cool. So Candace, tell us what's going on down there too, so that people out there know what you're doing, as well as the funny business out there. Sandy is an election integrity expert, and probably one of my most respected people that are in the field. I mean, an incredible woman. She's done incredible work, and if you don't know her, this is a great time to introduce the two of you.
Wonderful. Hi, Sandy. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I've been watching the hurricane down there.
Oh, okay. Well, so far we've been good in South Florida, but it looks like the west coast of Florida got hammered. So
where did it hit the most? I haven't even watched it that much, which I should. I've got a place down there. Where did it hit the most?
West coast of Florida is what I'm seeing, that was hit like near Sarasota. Something like that is what I saw. Fort Myers had like a foot of water.
Fort Myers Beach was completely flooded. It was up to the bumpers of the cars. It was past the doors of the shops. And of course, that area was so hit with Ian a few years ago. Most of the people were just rebuilding.
Oh, yeah. So, let's see. Despite damage, say they cleared pretty well.
It's still raining.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna see what we have down there, because I've got a place down there near Sarasota too. So we'll see. I haven't really been watching it that much, because it's one of those things that I refuse to spend all of my time worrying about things you can't change. Yeah. And so it's like right now, the one thing that we have to change, despite all of these disasters, this nonsense is going on and whatever, we have got to stay focused on these elections. If we don't have good elections, we've got nothing. And you can see what's happened with the illegal alien invasion, because it is an invasion, and it's a military style invasion that has hit our nation in so many tragic ways. There was a guy the other day, they had a picnic or barbecue in his backyard, and I can play the video. And a migrant with a non-registered foreign weapon in his hand came into the backyard to threaten this girl's birthday party. The dad jumped on him, beat the hell out of him and neutralized him. And the dad's being charged for assault. And the guy that came there to do damage is basically, it was like a slap on the wrist for this. And he said, well, I'm just doing what we were told to do. They were let out of prison, told to come to the United States and start killing, murdering, and hurting people.
Wow.
You know, I've got some choice words for that. I'll save you guys this morning. But right now, you know, I'm like, to hell with all of them. They all need to be deported, because we don't know what's what. And with them, I think we should strip all of our elected officials of the citizenship that participated in this top to bottom, and ship their sorry butts off to Gitmo. All of them. It's treason. It's crimes against humanity that they have enabled, including all of these NGOs that are out there that shipped them in and took money for human trafficking. It's like, I don't know about you, but I'm done with it. In Britain, the cops were telling the migrants to hide their weapons in the mosques because they're protecting the mosques, which means the cops are complicit. It's like, it's incredible. We should all be so pissed that we're past reasonable.
Yes. I feel
so,
I was a Republican Party I was on the executive committee for 20 years, off and on, in Palm Beach County, and I loved the Republican Party, and I just wanted to beat those bad Democrats. And so I started off like that, and then the 2020 election, we were, prior to that, everybody was Trump, 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 and that's all I loved was Trump and hanging out at Mar-a-Lago, and basically was my contribution to the world. And then what happened was when the 2020 election was stolen, I, was shocked, like we were all shocked. And they started at the GOP locally, they started to have these election integrity committees. And hilarious enough, there was a lot of people that, I don't know, it didn't seem like it was getting anywhere, but we were trying. So I would go to the supervisor of election. We called it the tabulation center. It was like a dungeon. It was like prison, essentially. There's no windows, and they lock the door. It slams. We're, trying to monitor, checking signature verifications and chain of custody and envelopes and doing activities. And it's like the Republican Party here, I hate to say it, really didn't support our efforts, or they just were ignoring us essentially. But I don't know why. At the time, it was a different chairman. Can
I wager an answer to that? It's a complicit uniparty that's going on there. The Republican Party did not support President Trump in 2020 at all. They walked away from what they should have done then. And we've got some good people that have stepped up, but I'm telling you, I'm not seeing enough go there.
The Palm Beach County Republicans were obsessed with Trump because they made all the money from Trump. Remember that. We're in his backyard. So everybody's obsessed with Trump in Palm Beach County until we lost. Now there was a split because the RPOF, which is the Republican Party of Florida, was all for DeSantis. So we've been in clown world, and it's been like I hate to say shit show. But anyway, and then we all took sides. Now everybody hates each other and barely anybody talks to one another. So there's all this division within the Republican Party. But we try to keep it together. We have new leaders now, but we'll see. But basically, I just took it upon myself to sort of step away and do kind of outrageous things in their eyes, I think it was. We were holding protests and peaceful protests. We went to Smartmatic. There's a Smartmatic locally in Boca Raton, Florida. Their headquarters here in the United States.
Oh, that's convenient, isn't it?
Yeah. We have it all because it's the mouth of the rat, Boca Raton. So you can imagine we have snakes and rats. Everybody moves here. All the horrible people move here so they can get their nice home. That's, I think when you get a home here, it's like, besides being homesteaded, you have immunity. So when you go to prison, your house doesn't get, yes. Oh, sorry. Your house doesn't get confiscated, I believe. So a lot of criminals like to come here. So
I did not know that.
I did not know that.
So that's why they can do $100 million home. If you have $1 billion, that's a smart way to, at least you got the 100 million. So anyway, that's just a side note. But back to the elections, we created with very smart people. Unlike myself, I was just, trying to do the best I can, but I don't have any education in all the intricacies of the machines. I mean, you learn through default. But they comprised a beautiful, I'd say 50-page PowerPoint that explained the vulnerability. So we were not accusing anybody. We didn't even call it violations. We called it vulnerabilities, and we presented it to everybody. So we sent it to all of our county commissioners. We sent it to everyone all the way up the line in Florida, up to Ashley Moody, to, Ron DeSantis. And there, at the time, there was an election czar. I believe his name was Antonucci, and he died. And no one's like jumping for that role after that because, you get I guess they kill you if you do that. I don't know. But he was supposed to be doing the election. He was supposed to be the one in charge of investigating. So we've done our David Ehrenberg locally, like all the way up. We tried to do the ethics commission. We have this wonderful board of ethics, but they told us that they don't handle Wendy Link, that we should go to Wendy Link, who is our supervisor of elections, to send that complaint to herself. So
you're kidding me.
Cannot make it
Stuff
up.
is crazy, right?
So
This is crazy.
I say I've been to 10 or 20, 10 commissioner meetings, conservatively, maybe more. They've shut off our mic. They've done everything. They ignore us. They treat us like we're, and we're actually nice, or at least I used to be. Now I've turned into a bitch. I hate to swear on television, but I have turned like that out of just frustration. And then so in addition, I went to all 39 municipalities within in Palm Beach County, and I went to every meeting except for maybe two, a couple of us, like there's three of us, Mikki and Erin and myself. And then they shut off our mic. I've been dragged out by police and sheriff where they squeeze my arm hard, and I've been kicked out. I said, I've been kicked out of better places than Boynton Beach City Hall. I can tell you that. But they told me, come back, I'll arrest you. What? I lived there for over 10 years, and this is the treatment. I said, did they do this to Jeffrey Epstein when he raped and murdered children? I want to know. Or is it just the soccer moms that the Palm Beach County sheriffs beat up on? Because I don't see them doing that to the real criminals, but they are manhandling soccer mothers. I have 4 children, and I was treated like, I felt afraid. And then it goes on and on. I don't mean to ramble. So
was that the video that came out just recently? Was that you? There was a gal that came out that was unnamed.
Yeah.
That was you?
I put out a couple of videos. Yes, I did.
Can you share them? Are you in a position to share them?
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, they were out of my phone. They weren't professional, but we were I have so many videos. I could have a whole slew of them, but really it's just, it's become a police state, and it's like surveillance, and the sheriffs, instead of being a constitutional sheriff, they are representing Wendy. So they're hired off duty to represent Wendy instead of protecting the public. And we have Erin with her 2 kids. She drags them. We have Mikki. She's 100 pounds soaking wet. Okay. We have like short little people that could never cause harm. They're kicking us out. I'm like, I'm not one of those, but the people that are helping, it's like they should be so embarrassed. They're not. And
well,
I
you know what?
Complaints, and they are either no one says one word. Like I've been to internal affairs. I've been to the ethics commission. I've been to David Ehrenberg, and they all point fingers. You have to call this one. Oh, we don't handle that. Oh, And then Ashley Moody, who I love, gave money to. Ron DeSantis, who I love. We did a boat parade for him. And I was obsessed with Ron DeSantis before this. So I just want you to know, like, I loved everybody. I'm not like an anti political person. I'm the opposite. I was like, oh, I'm in a picture. If you'll see me in a picture with every horrible politician, I have because everybody's at Mar-a-Lago. I'm with Lindsey Graham. I'm with them all. They all come to, and I think they're wonderful. Like, woo, we're so impressed with them. They do nothing. So they do nothing. The red pill was that it's not the bad Democrats. That I found that out about a year ago, and it broke my heart.
I'm glad you came right out and said that, because the problem is all of them. Because if any of them would have stood for anything, we would have seen something move. How do you take somebody? I'm just going to throw this out here, Sandy, and you're going to laugh at this one. How do you take somebody that served as a senator, works in election integrity, does not a damn thing, gets an election integrity, and once again does not a damn thing? How do you get these people that are in office for, say, how many years? I mean, look at the entrenched establishment on both sides. They could have done something. The Republicans could have stepped forward, done something in 2020 or 2022 or any of it. They could have demanded that the machines be removed. Nobody's doing anything like that. They're off in the weeds over here fighting this issue and that issue. The central issue, the machines have to be gone. Yes. And we have to go back and decertify the 2020 election. Unless somebody's talking those words, I don't even want to hear anything they have to say anymore, because
the
it's
first
like,
question I ask people.
yeah,
But they, you know what their answer is? It was stolen, but not here, not in Palm Beach County.
yeah. Oh,
Oh no,
the
never
clerk
where
all
I
say that.
live. Where I live was perfect. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Believe that until I actually was boots on the ground going, and then everybody's like, Wendy's beautiful, she's sweet, polite, well dressed, well, very etiquette, she's always, well composed. And you go, this person has to be a good person. Like, it's almost like a mind, mess with your mind kind of thing, because they put maybe somebody really sweet there to do the dirty,
or an ass kisser.
I don't
know about you guys, but I'm sick of ass kissers. I'd rather get somebody in there that's a little ornery, that's going to go to the end and straighten this crap out. And that's not going to be the person that's going to necessarily win the Miss Congeniality contest.
right.
It's going to be somebody that handles business.
The problem is it's very deceiving. It's almost like, I hate to say it, the devil always comes beautiful. It's never like you go, what? And so for the average person, you don't want to believe it. I never, like, my mind is, no, that's not really happening. But we know for sure that the machines are not certified. And I have a video of Wendy saying that they are certified in Tallahassee. But how could Tallahassee certify the machines when we were at the LNN testing? I think it's called LNN testing of the machines, but they weren't actually there to certify them. They're based upon certification years ago. And she said they do updates from Tallahassee. What is that? So we know the machine
across the internet. Beautiful.
Yeah, they do updates all the time across the internet. Yeah.
And so then
during the election in Michigan, they've done updates.
Also shows that they are connected to the internet. A, in a way, it's like saying something they don't want to say. And then B, we know that there is no chain of custody. We know that there are illegal people registering to vote. I put out a ridiculous video yesterday, like making fun of the process, because I said I'm going to use my Restaurant Depot card, and I put 2 cards that don't, I said these are going to be my proof of ID. Like, we're in clown world.
It's just shocking, and there's just no end to it. I think the work you guys are doing is what needs to be done, though, is that every single person has to step up and do something. And the more people that it's going to come down to, I hear a lot of criticism on President Trump. Well, he should have had a better cabinet. He should have cleaned it out. Who's he going to get to replace him? Yeah. It's going to be the swamp is so deep and so wide. It's going to take some people who are not, those people poised with pretty words and have everything all together, but somebody that's in there is a little bit of a scrapper that's willing to go in there and tell people, this is what's going to happen. And by the way, we are a no censorship network, so you can say anything the hell you want to say here. It doesn't make any difference. This is real news for real people by real people at the kitchen table, sort of.
Well, and let's talk about what's going on right now. We literally had an entire party that deceived the entire nation about the capabilities of Joe Biden, so that they wouldn't have to have any elections or any votes for who their candidates would be, so that they could just appoint someone into running for president. Yeah. Why is the nation not in complete uproar? The party who says the other party's going to eliminate democracy just eliminated democracy.
Right. They also appoint the candidates.
Appoint a person that they wanted to appoint.
This is what's happening in Florida.
It's crazy.
Even on the local level, a lot of times Governor DeSantis will tap somebody in through their secret society. It's all clown world. And then they pretend to have elections, and then they rig all the elections. It's outrageous. But like the general public has been blinded, and I was part of that. And I am the type of person that I don't want to believe this, because it's like uncomfortable to say things like this. But I am now at the point, after being tormented, through people just ignoring the people that we consider our leaders, have ignored it. And it's just, you're just, wow, it's shocking.
If both sides weren't cheating, we would have gotten resolution.
Exactly. And so I think it's
simple as that.
It's like they're all friends, and they go, okay, you have this one and I'll give you that one. And then they do whatever they do in their IT magic world. whatever that is, which I'm oblivious because I can't even get onto my computer. They lock me out. I don't even know my password. But there are smart people that do this stuff.
That's fun. So yeah, in Byron Township here, sounds crazy, but even at the local level where we are all are, our clerk broke a bunch of election rules when I went to FOIA the information, and she just like, we don't have anything here. I'm like, what do you mean you don't have it? Well, we sent it up to the county, and they sent it to the state, and we're not supposed to be talking to you guys. And there's letters out there that basically prove that they were told not to talk to the citizenry and let the state handle it. And it's like, what kind of weaponized bullshit is this? And then she actually hung up on me as I was like, so you got something on your thumb drive there? Well, no, there's nothing on this. So, well, who wiped all this information? Well, nobody did. And I'm like, well, you just said it was empty. So somebody did, and you're the clerk. So somebody's got to know what's happening here. Well. And then she started talking over me like normal political operatives will. And then hung up, and I had a witness that witnessed this. And it's like, they know what they're doing. They absolutely know. Byron Township, they're passing stuff so that they change the times of the meetings so that they can pass things having to do with the master plan here, to change the master plan. We had a whole bunch of people that showed up for the meeting. Oh, they don't care. Well, luckily or unluckily, I hope somebody from Byron Township is listening, because one of our wonderful commissioners, our councilman, let's put it that way, got drunk and spilled the beans. And it's going to be pretty funny to watch this come out, because they know they're breaking the law. They know they're playing the citizens just in order to commandeer the land. They hit a tax bill on me. I wouldn't have found out about it had it not gone through a piece of junk mail. And I was like, what in the world is this? Took us 3 to 4 times down there to get them. No, you're up to date on all of it. Oh, really? The last time we were there, which was like one of the last days before we had a chance to figure out what was going on. Oh my goodness, we just found this. How do you do that? You don't. You knowingly hide what's going on there in order to steal the land, steal the vote, steal everything. These people are parasites. Wow. And they hate us. They absolutely hate us. From top of, they see us nothing more than something to feed off of, to play, and to destroy. So, well, that's crazy. And just like back to what you're saying, it's like those people that are always talking, and they've always got the pretty words, and you don't have a problem here. It's gonna be fine. Go along to get along. Those are the ones that are literally slitting your throat and stabbing you in the back full time.
How about one afternoon, I attended the Palm Beach County budget meeting, which we were not allowed to have public comment on. Thank the Lord, because I think I would have been in big trouble if they would have allowed me. But it was $7.8 billion. And the majority, or a lot of the money, was focused on IT and AI, artificial intelligence. And then that evening, I was off to Belglade, which is a very, very poor community out in the western part of Palm Beach County, where they have a lot of the agricultural district. And we were hitting, it was almost like a third world country. And I was almost crying because of the poverty there. And I went to the meeting, and I said, how do they sleep at night knowing we have communities like Belglade and that are so poor? And the people that were there, I was almost in tears. It just seems so outrageous that these commissioners will allow this. And then they're spending all on artificial intelligence instead of the people who lived in huts. And there were potholes, I'm not exaggerating, at least a foot deep in some areas. So the roads, the infrastructure was not even standard. I said, what? So then I had a smart mouth, and I sent an email off, and I said, why doesn't one of these commissioners take $1 billion and rebuild these towns? What do they do with this money?
Well, you know what? So Byron Township is an area that has about 15,000 people in it, maybe 16 now, because they keep commandeering land and want to shove all this development, which they're making money off of, I might add, and their buddies on the contracts and such. And they had a $30 million overage. I want you to think about this. For a township with 15,000 people, that I happened to overhear that number from somebody who was a realtor, right? They did all sorts of projects on building for the schools. They redid the entire town, the Byron Center municipal building there. They did an addition to that. They redid their own parking lots and such. Who the hell do these people think they are? They should have, why is it that they can just take that and then say to a group of residents that came in to talk to them at a meeting, say, it doesn't matter. We're going to do what we want to. And it's a done deal over somebody who was dumb enough to get drunk and spill the beans. Oh, that's going to be fun to throw that one on the table, because that one's going to leave a mark. And I think
Palm Beach County, they snuck, and we were at the meetings. We never saw a $35 million budget for this new tabulation center. Wendy Links, we call it the Fortress of Fraud. I also call it the vote manufacturing plant. On all my emails, I say this on the emails to them. I said, oh, we love it. It's state of the art, beautiful. Where did this come from? Like, she gets so much money, and then there's homeless people all outside of it. It doesn't seem right. Like, it's the contrast. Like you said, they're building up their own. They're using taxpayer money to build these giant monstrosity things that don't even, the public, we were kicked out of it.
Yeah.
And I have a political attack, and we were there as designees, but we were done. So we were actually kicked out during the rain, and my girlfriend has children. So we sit on the bench. This is something stupid, but it just shows you. And there's like overhead protection over top. And when it rains, it was done where the rain falls on your head. So you're soaked sitting on the bench. You cannot make it up. Whoever was the engineer does not like the general public, because if you sit on the bench outside, it doesn't cover you. And so even in the planning, so we call it the Flamingo Fortress. There's flamingos outside. It's beautiful. The problem is, I said, we're going to make it a nightclub at night, and we're going to have a disco and bring in, for special event venues. I'm being facetious, obviously, but let the general public enjoy this. Like, what do they need? Such a 120,000 square foot structure, something like that.
Because you need a lot of work in place to create votes.
Yeah, because it's a manufacturing plant, and then around back, everything's security, and it's across from the sheriff's office. You feel like you're going to be in trouble all the time. It's supposed to be a public access venue. Everything's backwards.
It is backwards. And when you look at the COVID money that got thrown around in Michigan here, I had the spreadsheet for how much money went around for that. Get this. This is what they're doing and how they're laundering. Almost every school district had a large building project that went on during COVID. Wow. So they were given contracts to all their buddies to build into the schools, to build these they were reinforcing their indoctrination camps and making them bigger and getting more control and taking more control away from people.
And for the schools to get that money, they had to sign that they would do whatever the CDC and the National Health Organization Institute said, and that they had to have a plan put in place to vaccinate children without parent knowledge. They had to have a plan that they would forcefully vaccinate all children if they were asked to do so in order to get that money. Because we were trying to fight against the school districts here taking it because of that.
Yeah, this is so bad. And here's something else that you might not know, Candace. I don't know if you know this, Sandy, but the COVID money. So just as an example, Detroit is kind of an abysmal situation over there. Okay. And the people thinking Detroit is a big city. It is not. It is absolutely not a big city anymore. It's a industrial wasteland of mismanaged land. There's houses that are standing there. I mean, just you can keep going and watch all these houses that are falling down. How is it that Detroit can continue to have this kind of crap going on and allow these big building projects, but watch the neighborhoods and watch things falling down around the people there? There's only 500,000 residents of Detroit proper. They got $40 million in COVID money for Detroit proper. Grand Rapids is about 1.2, 1.3, and they got $1.25 million in money. They laundered it right straight over there to Detroit, where nobody has the ability to say a word. And you look at all of the destroyed buildings, the buildings that are falling down. You can go through Detroit. There is trash and crap everywhere. When I was going around in 2022 and such, you cannot believe how much, every time you get off the highway, every single entrance ramp or any of the exit ramps were just full of trash. And I mean trash. And we hear things, it's horrible. And it's like, I went to DC and I hear all this stuff about how bad DC is. I didn't see it in DC. I'm going to tell you what, there was no graffiti that I saw there. And it's like, I listened to President Trump talk about the graffiti. There's no freaking graffiti there that I saw. And it was clean. It was safe. My team went up outside. I didn't go with them because it was raining, and I'm not going to go stand out in the rain. My dad raised me to have a little more, how should I say it, common sense than that. But they went out and they're having fun, until 2 a.m. on scooters in the rain. And they were perfectly safe there the whole time they were there. So I don't know what's going on, except for there is so much lying going on right now for disinformation, misinformation. We're in a war. I get it. All war is deception, but I just don't get it. And you can't say boo. And it's like, I've got a lot of friends that are different races, and I'm like, I want to hear your crap, and they laugh because they know me. I'm like, I'm done with the black crap. I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear all the special. Either you're an American and you actually want equality, or just stop it. Just
Donna,
stop
can I say
the
something
narrative.
in defense of the Black people? Because I am in agreement with you, but at the same time, do you know what that was the reason of that came from? Years of abuse by the police. I think a lot of police brutalized the Black community privately, because I have a hairdresser. Her husband is Black. She's white. He told me these stories that he said he literally peed his pants from police brutality, because he was driving at night, and he said he was smoking pot. He did tell me that, but they didn't know that. But he said he was driving, and the stuff he told me, I was almost crying, and they almost like raped and pillaged him.
Well, they're doing the same. They're doing the same thing now, though. Only they do it by engineered groups like Antifa and BLM. It's the same people. They just use different groups to attack people. But we've got to identify who the real threat is. Who is the real threat here, and who is actually being victimized? And all of us should stand up for a human being, regardless what their race is or what they believe, even if we disagree with them.
But I was always pro-police, and I gave all my money because we have the best. Like, they have these police foundations, and you go to these extremely fancy galas, and you could do sheriff for the day for $5,000. What the hell are you getting for? I never thought anything about it. Sheriff for the day. Is this payoffs to our sheriff? But all we have a ball. So I was police until they started to handle and practically drag me out of places. Now I'm going, now I don't trust the police. It's weird. Like, I was always pro-police, but they have to straighten up, and they have to be retrained, and they have to be constitutional sheriffs. And the police officers should not be doing all these illegal things to citizens who are not causing harm.
Well, the corruption is from top to bottom, and why are they not why are they not upholding the law? I mean, the law would protect the rights of everyone, and we wouldn't have groups of people that are attacked or marginalized or victimized or whatever you want to call it. It all comes down to, are we going to, uphold the law and get past this whole nonsense with having to have special favors because we're a subgroup, or special favors because we're not a subgroup, or special favors because we're this, that, or we identify as a million different things. I mean, okay, let's just do that. I identify as a giraffe today. I should have special status as a animal who is in fact have my an endangered animal, or some stupid thing like that.
My home loan identifies as a student loan.
What?
My home loan identifies as a student loan.
Yeah.
Right? Like she's saying, everything can identify as something else. So, why am I having to pay the debt that I've taken on, but they don't?
Right.
I feel like our whole government needs We need to like start over from fresh. Everybody needs to say, okay, like everybody gets, I don't know. And
well, and that's what they're really trying to do, right? What they're trying to do is make it so bad that we all agree that we need to start over so that they can dismantle our Constitution and
but our
move us.
Constitution has been
Right.
dismantled. So I feel
Well,
like,
they're doing it behind the scenes now, but
Right.
they want to literally dismantle our Constitution so that they can turn us into a socialist or a communist nation. I mean, that's what they want. They, you know, they want to take away the right for us to bear arms, the right for free speech.
yeah.
They want us to be slaves.
and I believe
Or dead.
all the local municipalities are they're adhering to statutes. Most of the statutes are not even they don't relate to the Constitution, or they contradict the Constitution. And the little book that I have, my little constitutional, I have a common law book that I got from Mikki Klon's group. I don't know if you guys know this lady, but she's awesome. Anyway, I ordered it, and it said that statutes are supposed to be to protect the people against the politicians. When the politicians use the statutes in their like toolkit to use as weapons against us. So I used a statute for Wendy that she is required by law for us to receive election materials. And then she gives me a bill for $800 to do so. And she sends me a statute that I never even saw before. And then because I'm not a lawyer, they have one up on you, but they have like their statute toolbook, and they have probably 20 statutes, one that contradicts one another and then one to use, and they pull them out as necessary. Do you understand? These are, they use the statutes to trick we the people, and we go, oh, well, there's a statute. But if it nullifies the Constitution, that shouldn't even be allowed. And then the corrupt judges, it's
the corrupt judges support it, and we can't get attorneys to help us get the stuff through there.
Yeah, this is clown world. It's so deep and thick. That's why Trump probably did not anticipate all of these layers, especially to the local level. And they have it down pat. But a lot of people are in trouble, I believe, and they don't know it yet.
They are in trouble because you can't pull this stuff for so long without everybody knowing what's really going on there. And I believe that they are so in trouble right now. When President Trump said we caught them all, I'm pretty sure he did. And I'm going to say that maybe what they did, I'm going to just throw this out there. Maybe what they did is decided to let the election was stolen. They know it was stolen, and then watch the rest of the crimes that were committed to not only cover it up but take advantage of a vulnerable system. And anyone that, in my opinion, if Donna Brandenburg were governor, anyone that actually violated anything from top to bottom to the governor down to the last clerk, janitor, wherever it is that was involved in this, every single one of them needs to be immediately stripped of their citizenship, and then let's go immediately for prosecution. And and every single one of them, the whole thing, wholesale, has to be gone through, and there's got to be prosecutions. There has to be if you violated any part of the Constitution, while you were in office, you're a traitor. And you're guilty of treason.
One left.
That's every single one of them. So, but with that said, we're going to have to get our big girl and big boy panties on then, every single person, and step up and say, you know what? We're going to clean this thing out. We're going to clean it up, and we can do it fast. But people have to get off their baby mentality and step up and take a position and say, I'll do it. I'll be an adult. I'll do the unpopular things. I'll say the things that are going to make a few people maybe not like me. I mean, I might not be liked by, my community, but some of them are going to like you. And the ones that don't like you when you do that, who cares? Like a badge of honor. So what if they don't like you? If they don't like you and you're actually cleaning it up, they're morons. Why would you want to even stand with these people or have anything to do with them? Because they're
Well, this is clown world because the leaders of the GOP locally in Palm Beach County I show up to a Mar-a-Lago event like I have done 100 times, and they say, sorry, your name's not on the list. What? Oh, and she's flipping the page. This high-up person. So sorry, Candace. You can stay for the outside reception. You can't come in. I spent $500 getting my freaking hair done and, doll up and all that. And I just took it. I was quiet, and then I left crying. And then my car was smashed in like 10,000 cars because it was a big event. So I stood outside by myself in the dark and had to leave Mar-a-Lago because they were in charge. Can you believe this? When I have fundraised for President Trump and they steal all the credit, they don't let you, they'll take credit because what's called a bundler, and they'll take it's like there's a contest to see who raises the most money. It's all a show.
It's all a show.
I have to wonder at this point in time, would we see so much change? And even President Trump's policies and such things, even about halfway during his presidency, you could see things start to change. And then Trump victory shows up and all of these fundraising things. And I don't know. I'm hoping that he's okay. Let's put it that way. I really am. But it's I've been to Mar-a-Lago 3 times, and I'm going to tell you, whoever I saw was not him, because they can't fake height. And there's some things that they cannot.
Four different versions of Trump, just like Biden.
Yes.
I was riding around in the golf cart, and I think they say that's John Daly playing him at the Trump, Jupiter, or the Trump International Golf Course. Anyway, I didn't even show my driver's license. They said they let me in for lunch. Well, how could I be next to the president driving around in the golf cart? And I was giggling because that was the first time I was next to him. But I just felt like this is clown world, but I just went along with it. But then my daughter was at Mar-a-Lago that same day, and she's like, Mother, what are you doing? I go, I was just with Trump, and she says, oh, he's coming to Mar-a-Lago at 8:00. And then he's dressed in a suit and he lost 40 pounds.
Right. And so you watch him go to 3 events on one day. The dude's almost 80 years old. Right. And we're looking at this going, sure he is. He's jumping on a plane and he's going to be there, pop off that plane like a freaking gazelle, like Biden, and go and hit how many events in one day? People, please think this through. It's and I love President Trump. I am an unapologetic supporter of him. I love his policies, but I'm really worried about how many people around him. You look at JD Vance. I don't know how I feel about this guy. He was awful close to Peter Thiel now, and some other things that, you got Yale, you got Skull and Bones, you got all this crap in the background.
Well, what about his son's fiance?
Not even know what happened there, Sandy.
Well, she was married to Newsom before, unless that was fake news.
Did not know that.
Oh, I didn't either. But
unless it was fake news that I read, yeah.
I was
told,
these guys are a bunch of
But like I said, maybe the article I read was fake, because you never know what's real and what's fake. But
look at how these people are inbred freaks, right? They marry. It's like the old nobility. They marry each other's kids, and you've got Betsy DeVos married to Eric Prince, or married to DeVos and such. I got her brother mixed up and such. But you got these big dynasties, these big money dynasties. That's
part of it.
It is part of it, and it's I don't know about you, but it's you've got DeVos marrying a prince. Betsy DeVos was a prince, and now you got those two together. And who allegedly threatened my life about 3 months ago now? Screw you, all of you. I'd rather take a bullet than to capitulate to you bastards.
Those families literally have discussions about not diluting the wealth, and that they don't even allow dating outside of the wealth.
Yeah. And so it's it's all about, it's the same thing that they did with the nobility in Europe. It's the same thing. And then you can look at, West Michigan. I'm sorry, Michigan is the head of the snake. Sorry to disappoint everyone, because we've got all the old Dutch banker families here. Look at the
Game of Thrones, man. It's Game of Thrones. We just wear different clothes.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and you know, I don't know if you know it, but it's like DeVos has Graham here. You think they were making this crap up in their shed behind their, oh, that's such a quaint story. Heck no, they were probably down there with Epstein around in their yachts down in the Caribbean hanging out because they own Peter's Island right next to Epstein Island. How dumb are people to believe these stories? And then they've got Graham up here. They were producing Nature Boy and Girl. They were producing the shot up in Grand Rapids. And every billionaire on the planet has got something up here in Michigan. They congregate. They're like a nest. They're like a parasitic nest, like a cyst. You know, we've got a cyst of them up there in like Bay Harbor and such. And I've got some funny stories up there. That was hilarious. I didn't even know what I was walking into. And all of a sudden I'm like, you got to be kidding me, you know?
You mentioned Disney, and as a Florida mother, they have these Florida passes. So I had kids and all my friends, we all got the pass. So I think you pay $600. I don't remember the price. And you can go unlimited every single, like as much as you want for a year. So I
For the amusement parks, or what is it?
Yeah, all the amusement parks, all of Disney.
In Florida.
Okay.
Yep. So you get the $600 per kid pass, but you add that up, plus you get the hotels, plus the driving, all the food. I probably spent at least, I'm being conservative, back in the day, my kids are grown now, but $10,000, I'm just going to say, for one year, probably way more if you add all the, and then to realize what they were doing to children right there, like everybody should be so furious. I don't even know if they know any better still, but I'm watching videos of how corrupt Disney is, and that they had underground tunnels to Orlando, to I think Nassau, all this crazy stuff, and to the islands, and children, pedophiles were there. I when people find this out, there's going to be all hell breaking loose. When mothers, and then all the videos have subliminal messages, and I had my kids watch this. It gets so deep of evil, and it just breaks my heart. And we imagine you're on a limited budget and you save all year to go to Disney with your family
to fund a bunch of pedophile freaks.
But nobody knows this. Or a lot of people don't still.
I think people are waking up to it. Anybody that's watching my show and has stayed with us this long, they already know what's going on. And some of them are involved in it because they come on here to spy. And then I hear later about them going, oh no, when Donna Brandenburg said this. Yeah, you cockroaches, come out in the light, So what else do you know that's going on here in Michigan, Sandy, with the elections? Because
a couple things,
there's so much. Peter Berninger reached out to me yesterday.
Okay.
And I love Peter. He's cool. So I got a feeling that we're in a position right now that there's a lot that's going to come forward, and it's going to be rapid. So you know what? I think everybody needs to prepare themselves. And with that said, you're going to have to get close to God to get through this, because you cannot trust what they're telling you, no matter who's saying it right now, because good guys are lying to protect what they're doing. They're not going to tell you what the plan is. I mean, the bad guys are going to know.
Yeah.
The white hats lie worse. In my
What's
opinion,
that?
The white hats probably lie to us worse than the bad people.
Yeah, I would say that's probably true.
And I repost everything. I go, oh, he said this. Boom, I send it out. It's probably all bullshit. Whatever.
Yeah. Well, the white hats are smarter than the bad guys. I'll tell you that right now. So if they lie, it's going to be a better lie. It's going to be harder to detect. But the bad guys, when they lie, they're just plain on stupid. Okay, they didn't even just take a stupid pill. They took the whole bottle.
So we have the election tomorrow, and we've been training poll challengers. The last poll challenger training is tonight at 7:00. So if anybody still wants to sign up for that, they can go to electionintegrityforce.com and click on the poll challenger and sign up, and they'll get the link for the training tonight.
I have a question on this, because I went through poll training with the Republican Party had a poll training. So I sat through the thing, and I got done with this, and I'm like going, okay, this is part of the puzzle to watch what's happening there, so it stops the cheat in one direction. And we're dealing with an election cheat squid. Okay, so it looks, that's how I look at it. It's like, it's this cheat squid of elections. that is its tentacles in all the different areas, right? So
Right.
I'm looking at this. Okay, you got poll challengers. Bam, that's one tentacle right there, right? So, but what happens as a poll challenger that Jocelyn Benson, the criminal, who received a Kennedy lantern, which tells me all I need to know. That's the group that is being officially acknowledged, though they're too stupid to know it, with the people that killed President Kennedy. And it's kind of amazing to me how people don't pick up on this stuff, right? And so Jocelyn Benson, the criminal, please try to arrest me. I would love that. Let's just go rumble, right? And Jocelyn Benson, the criminal, who was part of rigging the election, has given citizenship, not citizenship, but is given a voter card, voter ID, to all of these criminals that have crossed the border. Illegal denotes criminal, right? The criminals, they cross the border illegally. That is immediately they're a criminal. Okay, so Jocelyn Benson enabled criminals to vote in our election. Okay, how, as a poll challenger, do you figure out if even the people voting there, though it's important,
Yeah, you can.
are even American citizens that can vote?
Yeah,
and
you
are
can.
you complicit by saying, oh yes, I was there and it was a good election, I watched the poll, as half of your precinct is stacked with illegal equals criminal, who are sitting there voting in our election?
So Donna, what I would go back to is your tentacles, right? There's all the tentacles out there, right? And
Election cheat squid.
yeah, election cheat squid, and we know that they're doing all those things, right? And we also know that there's a lot of support for certain candidates, and to stay nonpartisan, I won't say any names, but the idea is that if we can cut off some of the tentacles, we might be able to help a little bit. And I'm not of some big impression that we're going to have poll challengers go in and it's going to make our election be clean and a good, fair election. I'm not that naive, but I do think that if we can have more people get engaged, it really helps on a lot of fronts. One, it does prevent them from pulling a suitcase out from under a table in front of you. It prevents those kinds of things. Two, it gets people a little involved. And, we talked about this earlier about how everybody needs to get involved. And we have a ton of activists who think they can sit on their couch and post something on some social media someplace, and that's being active. And we actually need to get them out of their living rooms and out doing something. And maybe if we can get them doing a little step, maybe their eyes will be a little more opened and maybe they'll be willing to do a little bit more. So, that's how I look at it. Do I think that doing poll challenging is going to save our elections and make them free and perfect? No, I'm not that naive. But every little bit we do helps. Every little tentacle we cut off, even if the whole tentacle is out there and we only cut off the tip. And, if they have to pay attention to the fact that we're doing these things, maybe that prevents them from doing more damage with another tentacle someplace else, and that's how I look at it. And it really comes down to what can we do, right? What can we do? I don't have a team of lawyers to go sue a bunch of people for their illegalities and remove them from office. I don't have that power, but I do have the power to hopefully get more citizens engaged in doing something. And if I can get engaged in doing a little bit, maybe they'll do a little bit more.
Can I mention one thing, Donna? You mentioned that these are all criminals. In my opinion, they're human trafficked. The people that are crossing the border may be pawns. They're criminal in the sense that they're registering to vote illegally. But in my opinion, it's greater top level. These are just small, probably sweet people that were promised the American dream. And you can go and who knows what they're doing, raping and pillaging their children. Like, I actually feel bad sometimes for the illegal.
I do too. But what I'm saying is that the word illegal means it is an illegal. It's an illegal act.
Illegal, yes. So I was just correcting that.
And Candace, I would say they're counting on us feeling that way.
Yeah.
They know Americans have big hearts, and they know that we're willing to open our hearts to them. And literally our governor here, I don't know if you guys have talked about this before, but literally our governor here wants us to take these people into our own homes.
No. $500 a piece to give them shelter. See, Michigan is
more money than me right now. But what I was going to say, Sandy, is about your poll watcher. That's the day of voting. we've introduced a concept called vote watchers, because the voting takes place before the day of the election. So there should be people, the second that they start the process, we have our group, that's what we do, is we go there and just, like you said, boots on the ground. We can't do anything, but we're there in every step of the way. When they have their canvassing board meetings, we're there. When they have their, we're signature verifying.
Yes,
So
we
so
agree.
Start before. And then the last thing I want to say is our Republican Party, we had all these beautiful trainings at a beautiful hotel with a fancy lunch. And do you know who they pick as the poll watcher? The one lady's eye shoots over here. They're 104. Okay. Or they have dementia. Everybody
on a show.
Or they don't die. No one dies in Palm Beach County. They live and they keep going. Okay.
Yeah, no one dies here either.
Them. No, nothing kills them. They could have 20,000 COVID vaccine shots. They're still at the meetings. And
we had somebody vote in the 1800s that was registered to vote in the 1800s that voted in our last election in person.
All I can say is that Michigan has got the fountain of life or a fountain of youth here.
I know. I talked about calling Guinness Book of World Records and having them come, because they should be studying Michigan, because we have more centurions than anywhere else in the world.
That's right. It's clearly we're doing something right.
So, and Candace, I agree with you.
Decided.
The law in Michigan calls them poll challengers. That's the formal name, but they're allowed to watch any piece of the election process. And so we've recommended that they go around the state into the clerk's office as much as 50 days before, because absentee ballots go out 45 days before the election. So that way that puts them in when they're preparing the ballots to go out, because our goal would be to stop a ballot from going out if it's not right. And then it actually extends after the election too. So it's not just the day of the election. It used to be that those events occurred with signature match, etc., where they were counting in the polling places. But to try to pull it out of the sight of the public, they've moved it into the clerk's offices. They've also made it so that in 2018, when they went to the proposition that allowed any reason absentee voting, they were supposed to set up requirements around signature match. And our Secretary of State has never really done that. And so what she's recently come out with is that any mark in the box whatsoever is considered a signature. So if there's a pen dot in the box, that's considered a signature. And we're not allowed to challenge around that.
Well, it's like you ever realize it, like when you sign something and you use your credit card, I'm like going to threaten to like sign Shamu or something like that, because it doesn't even look, use your finger to sign anything. It doesn't mean anything anymore, because it's like, it's this craziest thing I've ever seen in my life.
But wait, it's worse. So I was doing a signature verification. And the man that was showing me the signatures, I contested one. So he goes, wait, he pulls his screen away from me, click, boom, boom. And then he goes, here. I go, wait a minute, that's a perfect match now. They can click up somewhere and pull it down and put it back. Like, I'm blonde, so people think I'm stupid, and at times I can be. But I go, I just watched you change that signature.
That's a new thing. I didn't know they could do that.
Yeah, they can actually create the signatures. They've played around with the rules in Michigan. The signature in Michigan was supposed to be the signature when you registered to vote. But now they can go out on the internet and pull any signature that they want.
Are you kidding me? I did not know that. Sandy, I need
to AI has all of that, information out online. I mean, your signature's not secure anymore. Like you said, you go to Kroger, you go to everywhere, right? They sell all that data.
I'm going to bring.
I'm not calling out Kroger specifically, but all of our data gets sold. Right.
I'm going to bring out my next guest. Hey, Chris, how you doing? Can you hear us? All right. So I'm going to remove Chris until he can get that figured out.
Right. But so there's a couple other things going on that I'd like to at least let people know about.
Yeah.
We started ordering the absentee ballot list every day from the Secretary of State's office, so that we know who's getting a ballot, who's permanent absentee, who's returning their ballot. And we had over 40,000 of those ballots that went to people who we don't believe have the right to vote in Michigan because they forfeited their driver's license. They're over 100 years old. They moved out of our state based on NCOA data, you know, et cetera, et cetera. We whittled that down because some of them were going, for example, to psychiatric wards, but I don't have enough to be able to challenge to a psychiatric ward, right? I don't have hard data. So we whittled that down to over 22,000 that were ones that we could legitimately challenge. The things like the guy born in the 1850s, the people who forfeited their driver's license, the people whose permanent residence is no longer in Michigan. And, you know, when we did this in 22, they said we had individual affidavits. So we did that. We created individual affidavits. We sent the informations to the individual clerks. And I got this lovely 6-page letter from the Secretary of State that went to the clerks, telling the clerks that they can ignore everything we sent to them.
Wow.
Yeah, they will not listen to us. That's exactly what you have here.
You know, they're saying that we didn't have the right to challenge because the ballot wasn't there, because we're not citizens within the district that are asking for the challenge. But I would challenge that because we're coming into a presidential election, and in a presidential election, we award electoral votes based on the entire state. So according to our lawyer, essentially the district becomes the entire state.
Yeah.
Because that electoral is awarded based on the whole state. So we've got the attorney looking through this letter. We're trying to figure out where to go. But I changed the last letter that went out to the clerks, and I took the word challenge out, because if they're going to quote laws that say I can't challenge, I'm not challenging. I'm merely notifying the clerk that there's a problem and asking them to please do the investigation and do their jobs, because they have an obligation to keep the rolls clean. They have an obligation to have a clean voter roll. So if we have that obligation, they need to be held accountable to that and clean these rolls up. And when we have people who without the resources they have, can very easily find out that someone no longer lives in our state, they ought to be doing this work.
Yeah, but why would they do that? Benson went ahead and took all those names that we took off that were removed from the voter rolls, and she put them back on. Benson, who got the lantern from the Kennedy lantern, and if you don't think that's significant, you look into it, because it is.
Right.
It's a finger pointed right at her.
Yeah. And the other thing that's gone on in Michigan is, have you guys heard of Smurfs?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. So we got the list of Smurfs in Michigan, and we have posted that out. I'm sure you'll be shocked to hear that some of our big Smurfs in Michigan were our lovely governor, our lovely Secretary of State, and our lovely, our lovely Attorney General, Shri Tanadar. Prop 2 and Prop 3 got a bunch of money from the Smurfs.
What does that mean, this Smurf? I don't know what that is.
Do you want to explain, Donna, or you want me to?
You can go ahead. Well, what they do is they go ahead and they say that people who are older, especially over 65, but they can do anybody, that they made contributions. So they put their names in place and say, oh yeah, all of these people made these $5, $10, $20 contributions, these low contributions, and it's all fraud. It's a fraud from top to bottom. They're using people's names to put funds into the campaign
that are coming from foreign entities.
Yeah,
that are coming from.
They're money laundering into it,
and they're basically those tax dollars that we're sending to Ukraine, or that are getting cleaned up and sent back. Yeah, that kind of stuff. The money laundering, whatever form it is. Yeah.
When and I saw it happen, because this is happening. I don't know if people understand how extensive it is, but all of a sudden my credit card started getting hit with $500, $2,000 into campaigns I'd never even heard of. Well, I can tell you what happened there is that, and it was WinRed was involved in this. And they literally probably thought that my credit card was a campaign credit card, and it was a personal one, and hit it with donations to campaigns I'd never even heard of before.
They did that for mine, where I made a one-time donation, and then they kept doing it for months and months, and I caught it. I said, oh my God. And I
Yeah,
got mad at my candidate, but it probably wasn't even
But a
the
lot of
candidate.
times you wouldn't even know because you donated that $5, whatever it was, and then they got your information, and then they use that to then make more and more and more and more donations that you don't even know about.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Or they just claim
we
they
got the
do.
data. Of course, it's in rears, so it doesn't help you vote this time to vote against the people who are taking these in. But Prop 2 that changed our voting laws had a ton of that kind of money. Prop 3, and we released that out to the public. We put that information out in the chat rooms, and we want people to see it. We want people to go and look. You can search by candidate. You can search by committee name. You can search by state. And
Where do I find it,
all out
Sandy?
there. Pardon?
Where do I find it? Hey, Chris, can you hear us now?
Yes.
Okay,
I got
cool.
you.
Welcome, my friend. Okay, where
Hang
do
on
I
half a second and I'll get it for you.
Yeah. Just found out that the hurricane damage to my place, that there's really nothing that happened down there, so we're in good shape there. But I hope the rest of the coast is in okay shape.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I don't have any word back yesterday. I know that our road was flooded as of before high tide, so that's not good.
Not a good thing.
Okay, Don, I'll have to get it to you. Oh, here it is. https://smurfsearch.electionwatch.info.
I'm not that good. Try that again. What is it? Start over.
https
Yep.
colon
Yep.
//
Yep.
Smurf search .electionwatch.info. And then if you scroll down, you'll see Michigan. You'll see that you can sort by state, by different geographical area, by candidate, by committee. Committee, I thought, was the most interesting because when you go to the committee stuff for Michigan, you can see, keep going. I think Michigan's below. Yeah, there's Michigan. I thought the committee was the most interesting because that'll usually give you the candidate's name. And so you can pull up and you can see the numbers, or just the amount of money that's going into this is just huge. So,
wow.
See, so there's, and so our people need to see this because when they're voting in the primary, like I said, this is in rears, right? Because we can't get it ahead of time. And you can see there's pages and pages. It's millions and millions of dollars. You can see who the people are. And I would say don't vote for these people because you know that they're already on the bad side.
Unless they don't know, but I would say that.
Well, they may not know that it's a Smurf person, but they're taking in the money. You know,
Interesting.
They're spending the money.
What's
You're
that?
saying they spend the money, so it's in there.
Yeah.
And they should know where it comes from. And if they don't, then they shouldn't be in office.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So those are the kinds of fun things we've been working on. So again, poll challenger training tonight, electionintegrityforce.com if you want to sign up for that and be a poll challenger. And it goes over the laws too. So it's good to have if you are an election worker. I know the state doesn't always teach all about the laws. So it can really help the people who are the workers themselves know what's going on. And what Candace said is right. We've got to get, people in all the phases working.
It's who's who in the zoo. Oh, this is interesting, isn't it? You see that, Chris?
Not really.
Yeah. Put your glasses on, dude. You never know. Things have a way of surprising us, jumping out of the weeds at us. Who's who in the zoo? So there you go. Well, ladies, it was really nice having you on. I'd keep you on all day. You can stay on as long as you want, but I've got Chris on here, and we're going to talk about things too. So, is there anything else you want to say, or do you want to just stay on and join the next hour?
The only other thing I'd say is that on Tina Peters' case, they had a witness up on the stand that was a prosecution witness, and they proved he was lying on the stand. And so the defense has subpoenaed him to come back. The police took him out the back door. They actually served him in the court, and he wouldn't take the paper and threw it in the air in front of the jury. So,
Wow. Yes, she's going to prevail. She's going to prevail because she's one of our warriors.
She's certainly one of our warriors, and our lawyers out there working on the case. You know, we'll see where it goes, but I think it's good that they were able to. He said he didn't do some things, and they have text evidence that he sent where he perjured himself on the stand.
Wow.
So,
Well, thank you guys for all the great work.
thanks for having us.
Thank you for coming on. I love you guys. It's always so nice to talk with you, and miss seeing you, Sandy. It's like we got to get together and do lunch or something. I mean,
we should do that while the weather's still warm. Maybe here after this election tomorrow, things will have a little bit of a breathing room before the general.
I've got about 6 weeks of solid events I'm going to, and so hopefully I'll see you at some of those, because a lot of them are actually out of state, but there are some here, so it should be a real interesting 6 weeks for me. And so I'm going to be a little spotty here and there, but give me a call when you got anything that you want on there. Sandy is one of the heroes in election integrity.
It's not me, it's the team.
My new friend Candace appears to be so too, which is great. I'm so honored. But I'm going to tell you, for anybody that's out there, Sandy is just rock solid. And I just appreciate all that you've done and all that Joanne, has done in the past. And
Joanne, Chris, Jonathan, all of them. I can't possibly name them all. So the
Jonathan is one of my favorite people on the planet. I love Jonathan, and it's like, and Chris is amazing. And I'm going to tell you, you have surrounded yourself with, you should have been on President Trump's staffing committee, to go through it, because you have an amazing ability to surround yourself with solid people. You cut through the bullshit, which I know some people are like, oh no, Sandy, you hurt my feelings. Oh, too bad. So sad. It's like, she knows how to get it done, and I love you and I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, the team's done a great job. I mean, it was a huge lift to get out over 22,000 individual affidavits to the 1,600 clerks in the state. And they may be ignoring them, but, that was a huge lift for the team. And these clerks should pay attention. We may be wrong on some of them. We'll admit that. There may be one or two in there that they're going to look and find out the person just moved into the area or whatever. But we're bringing these to their attention because we're trying to have a fair election. We're trying to, do the best we can. We're not out to get the clerks. We're out to help. We just want a fair, transparent election, not on one side or the other side, just a fair, everybody sees the same thing.
They either follow the law or I don't care. The law is blind. And this bleeding heart sob story, nobody's involved in this crap, has got to stop, because there are people in it. And they know what they were doing. They knew what they were doing. They're complicit, and they did it with foreknowledge. And every single one of them deserve absolutely no mercy for the treason and the sedition that they committed against the United States of America. So I'll be the hard ass in this one for you, Sandy, because I don't believe in giving any of these people a pass.
Well, some of the clerks have really woken up. And as we've worked with them and they've seen this stuff, there are a few jurisdictions where the EIF volunteers have actually been deputized by the clerks so that they can help the clerks clean it up, because the clerks have now seen what's going on. And
there you go. So
big thank you to those clerks who are seeing it and being honest. And really, we're having things loaded in the back door from them. And now that they're aware and know, they're trying to do what it takes to clean it up. And so a big thank you out to those clerks.
I guess to go back to that, what you're saying here is that when people really are honest, they will try to fix what they've done wrong in the past. Yep. They don't cover it up. Correct. I'm not saying that to the people that are like, oh my gosh, what?
No, it's all the rest of them.
It's all the rest of them deserve that did it knowingly.
This letter.
Wow.
That tells them to all ignore it, right? This kind of stuff.
That is exactly it.
Why would you ignore it when someone's telling you there's a problem and you're responsible for it? Because trust me, when the stuff comes down, she's not going to say, "Oh, I'll take that hit. I told you to
Right.
ignore those." She's going to say, "Well, it was your responsibility." So
Right.
the clerks out there
Yeah.
need to pay attention, because they're the ones that are responsible in holding the bag. And if they don't, they're the
Wow.
ones that can end up in trouble.
Well, and I got to tell you, I've said this from the beginning, that I think that the Board of Elections in the state set the clerks up to be their scapegoat for criminality.
Yeah.
And
Usually
that,
they pick sweet people too.
yeah,
It's
and so
terrible.
they were set up. Now you either get off of that and you become a whistleblower and come out swinging
Yeah.
on this, or you're complicit. And
Exactly.
those that are
Wow.
complicit deserve nothing but absolute responsibility and justice for what they've done. And I don't mean a happy justice, right? I mean, the ones that did it knowingly deserve nothing. The ones
Wow.
that have come forward to help clean it up, they're our friends. And you know, and there's a lot of people that have been coerced, threatened, blackmailed, that have been dragged into this. You've got to have the guts to come forward. You have to. And we'll do this together. With that said, thanks for joining us today. I'm going to do a real quick break here. Do you mind, Chris?
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I'll just
Bye.
hang on. I'm going to play my little intro, and I'll be back with Chris Deal, the real deal. And welcome to the second hour of Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg. It is the 5th day of August, 2024, and I'm on with the real deal, Chris Deal.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, Chris? Surviving the hurricane?
Yes, I am. It's quite loud.
How is it going on right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Lightning. Yeah.
well, I'm glad.
Nothing we've never seen.
Yeah, it's like for Michigan, you know, it's like, oh my gosh, it's gonna snow. So what changed? This is always what happens in the wintertime. You just got to be a little, you know, demented and tough to stay up here in the winter. So what's happening in Chris land today?
Well, I was looking at the assassination attempt.
Yeah.
How when I watch and I see these people reporting it on our side, supposedly, and they're saying, now just look at the guy, don't look at anything else, just look at the evidence. Well, you're not bringing up any financial stuff. You're not bringing up any major stock shifts or any kind of big major transfers, you know. That's important because BlackRock had entity or a company. I think they were going to be, if Trump was assassinated, they made a move with their stock options where they would have got paid big time. Now, check this out. They go ahead and they do it. They find out that he didn't die. The guy messed up. He missed. Well, God got in the way. So BlackRock calls the company and says, I'm sorry, that was a clerical error. I didn't mean to put those 3 other zeros on there. That's my bad. Just give me the money back. Yeah, something up with that.
There was a lot of money that was in question at that time. And I think that that's an important thing for people to really realize that they were making bets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And they knew where it was coming from. We knew who was doing it. Cheadle couldn't answer one question. This guy that they put in place of her, Ronald Rowe, he's a real, he's a piece of work. He was on the J6. He was there at J6. Yep, on the ground during January.
Another
January.
inside Fedsurrection type thing.
Yep, that's what I'm thinking.
Well, there's no way it was that Patsy that did it, Crooks. There's no possible way. He wouldn't act alone. This is like I don't know.
Listen, radio checks, just to make sure. Me and Robert and Jason, we did radio checks while we were in the thing, just to make sure we had communications all the time. So that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to make sure that they got communications. So the police should have been able to communicate to the Secret Service. The Secret Service should have been radio checking, especially with local law enforcement that was contracted separately to do their job. And I can tell because the Congress, the people that are questioning them, they're not asking them the right question. They're not asking them the right question. You know, they're like zeroing it down on him like it's only him. And it might be only him as a shooter. But if you got a brain, you got to think bigger than that. I mean, who put this together? A 20-year-old couldn't put this together. Plus, make all those explosive devices. I would want to check to see if that 20-year-old kid has a little finger missing, or shrapnel scars on his hands from screwing up while he's learning how to make bombs. Because that's what happens. You get bit.
Yeah.
And I don't, these people are either the worst investigators in the world or they're in on it.
Okay, so there's a couple of places.
I'm sorry.
Where there's a little bit of a delay here, so I'm sorry if I step on you a little bit because I think you're done talking, and then all of a sudden it's like there's a 2-second delay or something like that. I'm like, oh, sorry. So, are there any other connections in Florida that you've seen as somebody who's done a lot of investigation and I know Chris really well. Chris was on my security team. He was in charge of my security team. So his amount of checking that he does and watching things is just extraordinary. And so it's not. This is not like a Walmart type security guy that sits in the back and to make sure nobody steals the milk here. Can't think of it. I can look it up because
no. Yeah. The I would have to go. I think it's on my other phone. But
okay, I'm gonna look it up here because you sent me something too that brought something into question, and that's a company down in Florida that it looks like that looks pretty questionable to me when you were saying it, because all of these people are tied in. They're all tied in together, and they're covering from each other with companies and with all of that sort of thing. Their supply lines are tied in, and it is you have to look in that direction, or you'll never see what they're doing.
And the reason it takes so long to do the research is because you got to go through all their cheating and their bullshit and their lies.
Yeah.
And their cover-ups. This company, it's technical.ly. And they apparently are kind of like that guy that does his own media. Only I think they might be a lot bigger than that. The guy that helped us out some when we were out there. Anyway, this media company All right, let me start from the beginning. So I took the building, the name of the building, AGR, right?
Which is in Sarasota, isn't it? And it's in with
No,
Indicor.
the
Is there a different one?
The owners of that building are in Sarasota. The mother company are there. They have all the lawyers there, accounting, they do everything there. But it was in March, this past March, AGR was sold to, it went to the parent company, which was AGR International. So I looked them up. I found out they're out of Netherlands. So they're WEF.
Dutch banking families, which are resting right here in Michigan, the head of the snake.
Yeah. Then I went. Then it went from there. It went to BlackRock, but it went to a different company that BlackRock used.
Is that
to give it a
Indicor?
What is it?
Indicor?
Yeah, Indicor.
Indicor.
So I'm looking up Indicor, and I'm in Sarasota, and I'm like, damn, Sarasota! I can go right up the street and visually look at it. So I went ahead and I went up. It's right up on University Parkway, and I took pictures of it. Yeah, it was really, really something. And they're all looking at me like they did something wrong. What are you doing? I mean, I wasn't out there. I wasn't like too crazy about it. But this company, Technical Lee or Technical whatever, they went ahead and they were covering for the building. They were saying, they were defending the owner of the building. They were saying that the building has nothing to do with, which is a lie, has nothing to do with the shooter. Well, that's not true, because that shooter was a client of BlackRock. He did a school, there was a school thing, a commercial. He did a commercial for BlackRock. Yep. So there is a tie. There is a tie there. And the fact that BlackRock is the signer for that, for anything that comes across there, it's a name, signer, BlackRock. Yep.
So there's definitely a connection there, and this is like an Oswald thing. There's no way this kid put this whole thing together. It's just a patsy. The other thing that I was wondering is, you watch the videos. There was a video that was confiscated by somebody on the internet that finally came out, and he's like watching this thing unfold, and the cops are just kind of like looking up at the building and going, there's a guy up there on the building. It looks like he's got some sort of a weapon, and we don't really know it. And they're sitting there looking up at this guy, and nobody did anything for such a long time. And then it's like how, it's like, what? I don't even have a question to ask right now. It's like, we're supposed to believe any part of this, that there was that we have no answers on the whole thing, but none of it makes any sense whatsoever. And yeah, somebody knows something. That's what we do know. Somebody knows something, and nobody's talking.
That's because they're all in on it. Yep. They've been in on it, everything that we've had to experience that's been negative. They've been the head of all of it. Well, I found some stuff yesterday about what that Senate woman, she's does a lot of accounting and investigating, and she investigates all the agencies, and she's not done yet, but she got done with the EPA. Did you hear about that?
No. What's her name?
Shelley, Senator Shelley. I sent it to you. Did I send it to you? No, I don't think I sent it.
Shelley Moore?
No, it's Shelley.
Yeah, Shelley, Shelley.
SATL. And she did a press conference with another senator, and it was all over the TV everywhere, that the EPA, they've been taking our tax dollars, plus money they probably stole from somewhere else. They got I think it's $2 billion or $3 billion that they got from us, and they've been giving it to the committees that are handling the Hamas protesters. We've been paying for all this damage. We've probably been paying for BLM. We probably paid for
I'm
that,
sure we are.
with our tax dollars. So, yeah. Yep.
Is that it?
What do we say?
Let's see if YouTube will play.
Uh-oh.
Usually, what's that?
I accidentally hit the play button.
Yeah, no, I hit it, so you're good. That was me.
Oh.
YouTube doesn't like us, so I'll put it in another.
They're in.
You bet they're in. That's what we had to come up with Brandenburg News Network, because we got too many liars, cheats, and thieves out there. So let's see. I'll try. Sometimes Edge will play them, but even Edge is kind of tricky. I'll see if we can do an Edge. See if this is what you're talking about here. It's like, oh no, we might have patriots on these channels. Couldn't have that happen. Wouldn't want them to see what's going on.
Now, when they do a hit, I'm talking about the government.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have the event. You have silence. Nothing's really. There's a little space, and then the next day you have stuff that starts coming out, right? Well, who do you think's putting this stuff out there? And here's the other
ones
point.
that did it.
Right. And YouTube, I went on YouTube to do some looking around. It was less than 12 hours from the shooting. Less than 12 hours. I put on YouTube, they already had the investigation with the school kid that supposedly went to school with the guy. And he was like kind of half smirking and smiling, saying, yeah, I think he was like alone, or he was always alone by himself. He'd sit down and eat. People would pick on him because he wore camouflage, but he was always by himself. You know what I mean?
Never had any friends.
In other words, subliminally saying, oh, he's a loner. Okay, I get it, buddy. I get it. You're overselling it. And then I scroll, and right beside it is a bio. They got a 20-minute bio on the guy, on the shooter. Now,
yeah, like that just popped up out of nowhere.
How did they release the name that quick? Did these people stay up overnight and call the sheriff's office and say, well, I got to know the name of that shooter? Nobody knew the name of the shooter. Not until, the next day in the evening? This was in the morning. They had 2 interviews in the morning already out there. Just like you had them BlackRock pulling that money back real quick. They did it right before. The media sent out propaganda as soon as they thought they would be slick enough that they could do it. But it's all to mold you. It's all to groom you into believing their sales pitch. Their sales pitch is that it's a lone shooter and it's our fault. We screwed up. They would have said the same thing if he died.
Yeah.
It would have been the same thing.
Well, just look at 9/11 and how 9/11, within 2 hours, they had the terrorists who committed these crimes, and they had their passports in a whole city that was completely, paperwork from forever. And they found their passports in a plane that hit a building that was blown up, and it looks like a Bugs Bunny cartoon with the wingtips on the plane cutting through a steel structure. Seriously?
Oh, look what I found.
Oh, no.
Yeah. No, I don't think so.
So let's go back to Crooks and Cheater or whatever, Cheadle. And how do you have two people with the names of Crooks and Cheadle that come forward? Doesn't we've got a crook and we've got a cheater sitting there, so it's like
well, what do you expect? Donald Trump's fault.
It's a clowns in America. I don't know. Whoever makes this stuff up isn't entirely they're not like in the top drawer there of any type of an organization. Clearly, maybe they are. Maybe we're that stupid.
I don't think so.
No.
We had it figured out before they did. Well, YouTube gave us most of the information on all of them. But
you got to trust YouTube. YouTube's got it on, right?
Trust YouTube. Everything they say is right.
That's right.
Well, I got cancer, a broken arm, a liver, going bad. No, so Cheadle, I figured, well, they're going to go ahead and use her. They're going to just put it all on her, you know. But that guy, Ron Rowe, he perjured himself because today he said something different than he did last week. Last week he was under oath. He said that he was throwing the police under the bus. He was saying, "Oh, they didn't communicate with us," you know, like it's not us.
Nobody's fault. It's never anybody's fault.
Well, it's not. We're the Secret Service. We never received communications from the state police or the local police. Today, while he's in the committee, he says, well, yep, they communicated to us. They let us know that they found, we heard this chatter about they got a guy on a roof and it looks like he might have a weapon. So now you did. Now you did have communications with the guy. But before you didn't have communications with him. So I want to know which one is it, you know? These people are, they're not right. And Donald Trump, he better start praying really hard and asking God to keep protecting him.
Yeah, no kidding. And all the good guys, protect the good guys. God, please protect all the good guys that are out there. We know that they're out there in the midst of all these bad guys that just keep coming, you know.
Me too. I'm just bad sometimes.
They're breeding, Chris. The bad guys are breeding because it's like watching a hatching of a parasite or something, and it's like they just keep hatching more and more of them, or we just become more aware of it. I don't know.
It's funny you say that because in the Bible, toward the end, it says that they start coming out of the hole. They start all coming out, and they're out now. I mean, geez, they've been out. I mean, calling good evil and evil bad, or evil good. Yeah.
Well, what do you think's happening right now? Have you been watching what's going on in Japan, Korea, China, the financial crash that's on? It seems to be rolling from east to west across the globe.
Yeah, and you know, this whole thing about our economy, we've been pretty much carrying the global existence, the ones that are important to us, that we need their resources.
Well, not important to us, but important to the parasite class that runs this nation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's important to them. It's not really important to us because that's where they get their money. They just funnel it through us. We're the ones that they use as a money laundering machine. We are. We're the washing machine. Yeah. And it goes straight up to them. They, I wrote it all down on the text. But yeah, with that EPA, what that lady found out from the Senate. So you have them misappropriating funds with the agencies. Then you have basically, not really. I don't think it's the Democrats that are doing all of this. This is a global attack against the United States. We're at war. We are at war. I truly do believe that because when you go to war with another country, the first thing you want to do is screw up their communications, and you want to divide them. That's where literature comes in. That's where media comes in. We did it in World War II. We dropped pamphlets all over the place. In Vietnam, the North Vietnamese, really it was China, but the North Vietnamese was dropping pamphlets, and it was all in Chinese. How the hell am I supposed to read this and come aboard your show? I can't even understand that. I'm going to shoot you instead.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
gotta get that.
Yeah, I've got a mower outside my window right now, and I'm sitting here going that it's very loud. Can you hear it?
I hear it.
That's like crazy. It's not gonna take him too long, but I'm like going, what are you guys doing out there? All of a sudden, oh, it's mower. Okay. So real news for real people by real people at the kitchen table. So yeah, what I'm watching there is the kind. It kind of looks like things are collapsing, and it looks like it's collapsing rapidly. So I'm gonna kind of keep my eye on this today and see what the heck's going on here. I'll throw a few screenshots up there on.
That I text you a real long analysis of what's been going on economically and what these guys are doing, because they're, this is all from the beginning, when the Jews when they left and they came here, they went to Germany, and then from Germany they came here. There are German, the guy said, we're German Jews. We escaped Germany. Or Nazi. We're Nazi. He said Nazi. We're Nazi Jews. We came over here to escape, getting killed over there. And he says, and it's a family. It's a gigantic family. It's like two families. It's kind of like the Rothschilds, but you got two other Jewish families, and they carry on the tradition of their system, their financial system. Well, they brought it here. And that system, they would pass down to their children. They would indoctrinate their children so that when their children were growing up, they were saying things, making riddles of business. They were talking business when they were 10 years old, reciting riddles about business. And by the time they were 20, they basically had the system down, what they had, how to invest, and what to do with term limits on the stocks, and how to, but this last generation, they were saying that these people just went to sleep. Either they went to sleep, either they were stealing money, or they did it on purpose. Now, they've always been taking their fair share from the top, and then they would send down money for like infrastructure. They would send money down for health care. They would send money down for, right? But what they were doing was they were keeping the money. They weren't sending anything down. Look, you see this? This cell phone?
Yeah.
This is the only improvement that we've had since, when did they come out?
I don't
When
remember.
1990 something? 98 maybe? No, 80 something actually.
It was in the 80s, I believe.
Late 70s, early 80s, right? Mm-hmm. I think Sprint came out with it. But this is what you got from the top. This is what they gave us. They gave us a cell phone. We still got cars. We had them since 1926 or whatever, 1800. We've had automobiles. They haven't done anything else. It's all been on us. So where's the money? Where's the money been going? Right? Well, they say there's all these wars, and there's all these causes, there's all these committees we got to set up for all the problems going on. But the problems don't get fixed. The money comes in. They sold you the pitch where it's got to go. It just never goes there. I mean, look at your roads in Michigan. You still have potholes all over the place.
Yeah, but you know what? After we got done running around the state campaigning and such, all of a sudden, it's like I'm like watching like 20 miles of orange barrels out there, and there's like no construction equipment at all. And now everything's getting fixed right now. It's like, wonder why that's happening. It started right before Gretchen's little last stealing of the election, but before that, it was like for 4 years she didn't do anything. She twiddling her thumbs and doing whatever else by enabling the World Economic Forum to come into Michigan, and now all of a sudden the roads are getting fixed and such, and it was bad.
You were saying it was like 20 miles a barrel. Mm-hmm. You're going, I'd be the guy that has that barrel contract.
Yeah, that's right. That's like I've said that for a long time. I'm like, dude, I want to know who owns the barrels that's making money. Did you know that they added $10 per barrel? This is the mindset of these idiots that do this. It was a cost of $10 more per barrel. So think about this: 20 miles of barrels, maybe 30, 40 feet apart, with each barrel being placed in 4 lines of them for 20 miles. And there was no more than, I'm going to say,
2 trucks.
Yeah, that was like 2 trucks and one little miserable excavator or something like that. It was like ridiculous that we're doing nothing. And we went past these things a million times, it seemed like. So anyhow, we're watching this, and I'm like going, who owns the barrel contract? So I start looking at this, and they actually added Michigan, the state of Michigan, who's got the buddy, I'm sure, that owns the barrel contracts, specified that they had to add reflective surface to the barrels, which did not improve at all the visibility of them. But now they upped the barrel price by $10 a barrel, and then leave them out there for months and months and months and months and months with no construction going on. The illusion of getting things done while doing nothing seems to be the MO of our government. They want you to think they're doing something, and all they're doing is they're taking their time to take away our freedoms and all that. You want to hear another piece of weaponized bullshit I found out yesterday? They passed a law in the state of Michigan that went into act, and I didn't know this because I haven't bought any pistols lately. But they put this into act earlier this year, that you have to have a CPL in order to buy a pistol in the state of Michigan now. Or you can get a declaration from the sheriffs, who I talked to probably a third to half of them. They don't even know what it means to be a constitutional sheriff. Somebody that actually understands their duty to uphold the Constitution. So now you got to go with these guys. I'm friends with Darleaf. He is a beast level sheriff that does uphold the Constitution. You got the majority of the state that don't even know what their job requirements are and to uphold the Constitution at all. And now they're having to give, special declarations that, oh yes, I'm going to choose this person and that person and that person, and they can buy a pistol and that sort of thing. This is ridiculous. So yeah. Now you have to have a CPL, which I am a CPL holder, but I am absolutely against this nonsense. Can you believe it? It's they just take one right after another.
What's CPL in Michigan?
Concealed pistol license. Concealed pistol license.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, okay. So, wow, that's not right. That's not constitutional.
No, it's not. There's nothing lawful about this. Well, and so after I found that out, because Robert was the one that sent it up to me, and we've got this group of friends here that actually believe in the Constitution and a lawful government, right? So Robert starts texting me yesterday going, can you believe this? You can't buy a pistol without a CPL. I'm like, I didn't know that one. That was not, they're passing so many freaking laws. You couldn't keep up with it if you tried. And the people that are signing these laws into being in the legislature, they're not keeping up with it. They've got some little assistant that's telling them, you need to sign this one because that's where our campaign donations are coming from. And they're just rubber stamping crap.
They're violating their oath of office by
they're
doing
traitors. They're
Yeah.
traitors.
But
So
they're-
every one
but
of these,
they're-
strip them
Yeah.
of citizenship and send their sorry butts down to Gitmo. Let them sort it out down there what the truth is. Because you know what? You know, the surveillance state is actually huge. So you know they've got all the information that they could ever want because, you know, they've been using it with Five Eyes and AT&T's involved in it, as well as, I mean,
Yep.
they got us tapped on every way, 17 ways to Taiwan. They're listening to what we have to say. So
Yeah.
we just put it out there. You know, I know you and I do, Chris, because we're like, you're going to come and get me. I'm going to give you enough ammunition against me to make it worth my time. So yeah. So we'll watch that.
Bring enough. I'll
What's
bring
that?
enough. If I have to come up there, I'll bring enough.
That's a
I
good.
got extra thing too. I'll bring up.
Yeah, that's
I don't
good.
think yeah.
So yeah, I'm working on my cows now, the chickens. I have these great memories
yeah.
of Chris outside sprinkling the chickens down because they were hot. So here's Chris standing there with the hose on, sprinkling the chickens to cool the chickens off.
I was waiting for steam to come off of them. I thought I was going to steam come up, and I was going to really flood them then.
Chris is ready to grab a chicken as they cook out in the sun.
Yeah, tear off a leg.
And the barbecue sauce there. That's like really savage. So I don't eat chicken. So there you go. But eggs are cooking as they drop the eggs on the ground. So, well, wow. I appreciate you coming in and talking about that. I think we should talk more about that company that you dug up having to do with crooks and Cheadle out there and such, because you can't look at one part of this and investigate it just by looking at one part of it. There's always more. And I'm not believing one statement from either side that's coming out of that assassination attempt. We have no idea what happened because everybody's lying.
Yeah, and they didn't start coming out saying anything for like 4 days. I'm like, the public already knew more than they did, than they were telling them. Now, how the hell? What's up with that? You know why? Because they're covering up. It takes more time to cover up than it does to tell the truth.
Somebody's covering up stuff all the time. That's why, I hate to say it. I mean, you and I know each other pretty well. We're old friends. And the thing of it is that I, you go through the political process and such. And after a while, it's like it takes a long time for me to trust one word coming out of anybody's mouth, no matter which side they say they're on, because everybody's spinning stuff all the time. And we had the first group of people I had on today. The one gal that works with the West Palm GOP. She's like, the Republican Party. She said my red pill was the fact that the Republican Party was a bigger enemy than the Democrat Party, and she was telling exactly what they did to her and why. And I'm like, trust me, hold my beer. I mean, you and I both know. And I was told by a special investigator in the Attorney General's office, and he said just flat out, he goes, I hope you know it was the Republican Party that removed you. And I said, yeah, I had that figured out. It's like everybody's lying, and they're lying their asses off all the time to all of us. And nobody's coming forward with anything that we can actually trust as actual good information, unless you're seeing it, unless you're there. They can use masks. They've got CGI. There's so much CGI out there. It's not even funny. And I don't know why I can see it, but it's like usually I can spot it. And I think it's because I can't think of the name of it right now, but you know this about me, that I can see like over 2 million colors. And so it's like the opposite of male color blindness when women have that dichronic, I think it's dichronic thing, where you can see it's like 2% of women actually have that or less. But I can see like 2 million colors. So when something flashes in front of my eyes, I'm taking more information in, and I can usually spot if something's CGI without having the diagnostic stuff on it. And so it's like, I look at all this stuff and I'm like, right, sure, that's who they're saying it is. I'm not buying that for nothing, And I just sit back and let them hang themselves a little bit. They can be stupid all they want. I'm not going to correct them. And I'm amused by it all. So, well, Christopher, The Chris Deal, the real deal. You want to come on again next week? Yeah. Besides, I have fun talking with you because I know you well enough to know that, you know, your background is always honor. And, you know, that's the one thing, you know, Chris is a Marine, spent time in Vietnam. He's done a lot of security and I would say intelligence work and or infiltration work. And I could talk a long time about your background, and it's Chris Deal, the real deal.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, he's from Spook Network Central. So at any rate, thanks for coming on today, Chris. And let's talk again next week because I love talking to you. Let's see what other stuff we can dig up because we used to sit there and research together all the time, and we would find things out that would just blow people's minds.
I sent it to you and instead of transferring it to my other phone, so for me to stay on here.
I'll post that on my Telegram channel. I'll say this is from the big deal here. So
yeah.
All right, Chris. Well, I've got my next guest about to come on, and so it's Tom Speciale and intelligence officer. So this should be an interesting conversation too. And we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, Chris. Have a great day. Okay. And I'll be right back. Morning and welcome to the third hour of Brandenburg News Network. I'm here with Tom Speciale. Hey Tom, how you doing?
I'm good, Donna. How are you?
Doing good. Always good. It's a state of mind.
It is.
It is. And
it absolutely is. Yeah.
So what are we going to talk about today? We had about 4 subjects that we could hit on today, and I thought we would go wherever God would lead us on this one and just let it roll.
Yeah, I think, you know, when I asked you what you wanted to talk about, you said you wanted to talk about the truth.
The truth.
And I think that that's a great topic because I think that I think in 15 minutes I can address the lack of critical thinking skills and the distortions that are pervasive throughout the internet and are preying on people's fears and ignorance. I can probably do that in about 15 minutes with just a couple of very simple examples.
I love that because I have friends that they believe absolutely everything that they see coming across the internet. If it's something new, no matter what it is, if it's new, they will grab onto it and they think that something new is out there. And I'm like, I'm pretty extra sure that we're full of people that are spreading misinformation, disinformation. We're in a war, and that's all deception. All of it is. And so, you know, there's a lot of stuff that we really have to sort through it and take our time. It's not going to change anything that we know things unless we take action on them. So to jump on things is not always.
Yeah, I think the first thing you said there is people believe things. And believing things doesn't mean anything to me.
Right.
Believing something, in fact, you know, I learned from a very young age, my mom actually told me never use the words, unless you absolutely have no basis in fact, never ever use the words, I believe, unless it is something, you know, that's like faith, that there's no evidence of, that you just believe it. If there is a factual, if it can be proven to be fact and you believe something, then you're demonstrating your ignorance because you believe something, but you've not actually researched any of the factual information. And then if you dig into the sourcing of what you call factual information, you can usually punch holes in virtually all of the conspiracy theories by just looking at the bias of the sources that people are reliant on. Because if there is a bias in a source, then automatically you have to question it. If
Right.
there's a known bias by the source, then you automatically should discount that and seek to disprove it, instead of seeking what most people do. What most people do, Donna, is most people seek to prove their bias.
Agreed.
They don't really know how to research. They haven't been properly trained. Our education system has failed us. They don't really train people to be really, truly analytical about what they consume. Instead, they just kind of consume whatever is the most provocative social media. And then they go and they do a little bit more internet research and they find out that it's still very provocative. And that's the thing that the Google algorithm is feeding them. And so then at the end of the day, they believe that all that stuff is true. And in reality, the algorithm is providing biased information to you. And that was proven. I mean, that was, I think people need to watch the documentary on Netflix, Agents of Chaos. And the other one is Social Dilemma. If you haven't watched those two documentaries,
I haven't.
they are fantastic. The one is about how Facebook algorithms essentially feed you what you want to believe, and the Google algorithm helps you find the things that it thinks you want to find. But the problem is the algorithm is taking into consideration your already existing bias. So what it knows about you. And so it feeds you what you want to believe instead of just like the factual information. It's trying to help you. The algorithm is trying to help you. But in reality, it just continues to feed you your own narrative. And that's why we've become so divided as a country today.
Okay, Agents of Chaos, and what was the other one?
Social Dilemma. They are a must watch. The Agents of Chaos is about the Russian disinformation campaign against the United States in the 2016 election. And the Social Dilemma documentary is about even the executives within Google and Facebook and Twitter, all warning everyone, don't let your kids on these platforms. They're very dangerous to your psychology, and they are driving our country apart. And these are like former executives of Google, Twitter, and Facebook that were all in the Social Dilemma. And the funny thing is you right now, I was just listening to, I'm sorry, what was his name that was on there? Chris. And you guys were talking about several things, and I just wrote down some notes. The Michigan concealed carry law,
yes,
or the firearms purchase law. And then you said something about listening to what they have to say. In other words, the NSA is apparently listening to all Americans. Then you said we were talking about.
I didn't say NSA. I said someone. I said they are listening to all Americans. I said we're all being observed and listened to, and I do believe that's true because
hold on. Then you said, no, right? No, I agree that that's possible. I 100% agree that that's possible. Then you said that we can't trust anything about the assassination attempt. I just shared on my Twitter. You can find a really great documentary. It's about a 20-minute video by the two snipers that are in Congress that went out there, and they've interviewed a lot of the people and stuff. And they've really, I think, helped people understand some stuff. They know some inside information. I just shared that on Twitter. I think that can answer a lot of your questions because these are actual snipers. It was. Let me see if I can get it to come up here real quick.
Because there's so much conflicting information, and if somebody can say that they can nail this down in a matter of like a day, I mean, within a day they had Crooks's name and they had everything assigned to who did what, and I'm like, I'm not believing a thing on this.
Yeah, but let's see, who was it? This was it was Benny Johnson that did that I shared it from, but it had on it. Let me see if. They went out to Butler County. It's the two members of Congress, but one's a Navy SEAL sniper and the other one was a U.S. Army sniper. And they went out there and they looked at the whole terrain. They looked at everything. They've looked at all the statements by the Director of Secret Service, et cetera, FBI, and they've kind of put it all together. And it really is, I think, a really good technical analysis of what happened
What's
and
your Twitter account?
where the breakdowns were. And you can find it on my Twitter. Just go to my Twitter page, at Speciale4VA, and you'll see it right at the top of my Twitter page. And it's a really good, and I'm a professional rifle and pistol instructor. I'm an NRA pistol and rifle instructor, and I'm a career Army veteran, and I've trained probably thousands of people in basic rifle marksmanship over the years. I have my own thoughts about it. Clearly, all of the tactical mistakes that were made by the Secret Service, and really some policy mistakes that were made by the Butler, Pennsylvania law enforcement and the SWAT teams. The breakdown in the instructions, the communications not working or not being linked up. There's a whole lot of bad decisions that went into that. But I think actually what probably saved us, and I think I mentioned this in our last call, I think what probably saved Donald Trump was, first of all, God. And then second of all, I think the guy's rifle sights were off by a little bit. And I think that if his sights had been properly zeroed in, he probably would have killed him with that first shot. But fortunately, and that's just my look at it, because he missed him by such a close margin, and only after Trump turned his head. Had he not turned his head, that would have been a clean shot. And only because he turned his head did it miss. And in order for it to have missed by that degree of a margin, the sights had to be properly, my guess is that they were misaligned. But I'd have to look at the rifle and shoot the rifle to know that. And then you guys were also talking about the Jews and the Jewish conspiracy that Jews run the world. And then you were talking about, and I'm very curious about
that was
this.
what Chris said. I listened to all different people and their opinions.
No, I got that. And then you also talked about how there's CGI everywhere and they're using it everywhere. And so I'm really curious. I am very curious, because I went to the Michigan, because I'm a concealed carry instructor in Virginia. I'm not a huge advocate of concealed carry, actually. I'm an advocate of safe gun ownership. And I think that as a constitutional right, we should be teaching our kids in school safe gun handling. And I think if we did that, we would eliminate all the fears by all the people who don't have any relationship with firearms, even though it's a constitutional right. So as an example of what the truth is, as opposed to what people believe, is the Second Amendment had nothing to do with personal protection. It had to do with protecting ourselves from a tyrannical government. That's why they wrote the Second Amendment.
Right.
Most people don't know that, right? So if you start from that premise, then it is a citizen's responsibility to own a firearm in the United States.
I agree with you. And I disagree with any kind of licensing for firearms.
Well, here's the thing. I agree with you. I agree with you. But the only way they can pass those laws is because the citizens of the state are not properly educated about the source of the Second Amendment. All of this is all BS because the education system has failed us. They don't even basically teach the Second Amendment in high school anymore because it's too politically charged.
Agreed.
But it shouldn't be politically charged because it's a human right to be able to protect yourself from a tyrannical government. And that doesn't mean our government is a tyrannical government right now. I'm not saying that they wrote it, but they wrote it in case the government ever did become tyrannical, right? And so we've got to teach it the right way and talk about it the right way, as opposed to concealed carry, because concealed carry is not the Second Amendment, Donna.
It's a usurpation.
No, concealed carry is not the Second Amendment.
Correct.
Concealed carry is just being polite. Okay, with regard to your own human right to protect yourself from anybody who would threaten you. It's a constitutional right to carry firearms, period. That is what the Constitution says.
Correct.
Okay, it is therefore a constitutional right to carry a concealed firearm throughout the entire United States. But because of ignoramuses out there who don't really understand the Constitution has been allowed to be essentially deteriorated by leftists who really want to disarm us. Okay, so
Agreed.
my point is this. Let's talk about the factual statement you said. You said that you have to have a concealed carry permit in Michigan in order to purchase a handgun. That's what you said, correct?
That's the new law that they just handed down.
But that doesn't take into consideration that you can also purchase a handgun with a and I'm not agreeing with this law. I'm just saying that there is actually laws that you're not taking into consideration. And the law is that you can also acquire a firearms purchasing license. So you don't have to have a concealed carry license. You can get a firearms purchasing license in the state of Michigan. What a firearms purchasing license does is this.
Can you share the link in the private chat?
I can't because I'm on my phone because that's the only way I can link to your thing. But all you got to do is go look at the Michigan law. Just go look and actually read the Michigan law instead of, just you read the whole thing. And here's what the firearms purchase license basically says. It says that you can't be subject to a protective order. Okay, right? So somebody who's under, so this is a red flag laws deal. Then you got to be 18 years old to buy a handgun. Okay. Then you got to be a U.S. citizen. You support that, right? You don't want the illegals buying handguns, right?
I think it's a bad idea. It's not a right.
Okay, well,
it's a right.
I'm telling you, you agree with Michigan law then, because they're trying to prevent illegal aliens from buying handguns. And then you can't have a felony or other specified criminal charges pending against you. Okay, so you can't be a felon. Do you want felons? Do you want felons to have handguns?
Yeah, no.
Why not? There's all kinds of felonies that are not violent felonies.
Well, that's a good point, but
there's all kinds of felonies. Stealing a car radio is a felony. Stealing a car radio is a felony. Should a person who steals a car radio be disenfranchised from their right to vote and their ability to carry or own a firearm?
No.
That law was put in place to prevent blacks from owning handguns. That whole law of depriving people of their Second Amendment was because the black community could be charged with a felony, get a felony, and then they could be disarmed and they couldn't vote. But people don't know the truth. They don't know the history. So they just think felons shouldn't have guns because that's what our education system taught us. But the reality is that law was designed to disenfranchise the black community from having firearms. That's what that was, because white people had money. White people could get justice. Unless you were a dang rapist or a mass murderer, you weren't going to get a felony. You were going to get a misdemeanor. Well, then you could still keep your rights to vote and you could still own firearms. And that I have a big problem with that. It shouldn't be a crime to be poor. Poor people don't get the same justice in the United States that blacks and poor people do. In particular, disproportionately blacks, not all blacks, but disproportionately the black population. So again, that is a Jim Crow era law to deprive the black community from owning firearms, which you just said you support felons not having guns.
Yeah, I don't. Well, let's put a qualifier on it then, and I'm glad for the extra information.
Right. So then, in addition to that, it says a person should not be prohibited from possessing, using, transporting, selling, purchasing, carrying, shipping, receiving, or distributing a firearm under state law. So in other words, if you're prohibited from doing any of those things, you also shouldn't be able to own a gun, right? If you're prohibited, maybe you stole, whatever that criminal conviction was. And then has the person been determined to be insane or legally incapacitated and is not under order of involuntary commitment for inpatient or outpatient setting due to mental illness? Okay, so it's not just concealed carry people that can buy handguns. What they're saying is, and I don't agree with all this. I'm just telling you what the law in Michigan is. The law in Michigan is
screwed up. I'm going to tell you, it's screwed up here.
Well, but here's the thing. You agree with some of it. You don't want the mentally ill to have firearms, right? You don't want illegal immigrants to have firearms. You don't want violent felons to have firearms. You don't want, how about 9-year-olds? Should 9-year-olds be able to buy handguns, Donna? Like just walk into the store, the gun store, and buy a handgun? In the Old West, a 9-year-old could go buy a handgun at 9 years old.
Well, I was growing up, we were shooting guns all over the place. I mean, we were, it was just part of life.
But you couldn't go buy one.
And nobody was out, correct. And nobody was out there shooting people. I mean, we were like shooting targets and cans.
Totally different. That's a totally different conversation. But, you know, I have a problem with all of this with regard to the protective orders thing, which are red flag laws, because I think they will be abused.
I think most of it gets abused. That's the problem, is that where do you draw the line? And the problem is when this starts, there's a problem with where do you draw the line on taking people's rights. So
I get that, and I'm not saying we should take anybody's rights. What I'm saying is,
I don't think so either.
I argue this very simply, and this is just one example of what is the truth and what it is you believed. You believed that it was just concealed carry holders. Well, no, that's not true. It's also anybody that basically can get a firearms purchase license. Now, I think there's some other criteria here that I have a problem with. How much is the firearms purchasing license? Because that could be another way to disenfranchise the poor from having firearms. If it's $1,000, like you can buy an automatic weapon in the you can buy an automatic firearm in the United States right now. You can do it. You just have to go through the background check, and then you got to have buy a $10,000 license, and then you can buy one. So it really just prevents poor people from having automatic firearms, right? I mean, that's poor people that are law-abiding citizens can't even afford to get the license. So there are things wrong with the law, but some of the things we agree with, which are mental health, people shouldn't have, people that are violent, people that are mentally ill, illegal immigrants, those things all fall under the Michigan law. And you can buy a handgun as long as you aren't those things. But again, the definition of felony, why is it all felonies? Because did you know that if you steal, if you shoplift $1,000 from the store, and I'm not defending the shoplifting crime as not being a crime. What I'm saying is that if you steal a certain dollar amount, it's automatically a felony, right? And you could be stealing, a table saw from Home Depot, and that might meet the felony charge. But that's not a violent felon that should be deprived of his rights to vote and be deprived of the right to protect himself with a firearm. That's just an intrusion into the Constitution. So that's, again, what I'm talking about with between what we believe and what is the truth. The truth is we got to look at the law, and then we got to think about the law, and then we got to see what's wrong with the law. And there are some things wrong with the Michigan law, but what you said was not true.
The Constitution, the 1963 Constitution for Michigan was not installed correctly. So that should be voided. And there's a lot of rules. There's a lot of laws that need to be voided back to a time where there was some sanity to it. I didn't even follow the law to get it in there.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a buddy of mine that was talking about this, and it's talking about how one of the amendments wasn't properly ratified. Same kind of argument. What are you suggesting, Donna? Let's just go down the rabbit hole a little bit with what you're suggesting. You said that the Constitution was ratified improperly in what year?
63.
So in 63, it was ratified
went off
improperly.
the rails. They didn't have a number of people voting for it.
Okay.
They take a percentage of.
So how do you rectify the situation?
Yeah, you're going to have to nullify until you get back to something that was lawfully done, and then start over.
So you nullify it. Nullify it. And what are some of the problems you have with the current Constitution versus the other Constitution, the one that was before it? Just give me one. Just give me one problem.
There were a number of things which gave the government more overreach in the 1963 Constitution, but that doesn't matter because the whole Constitution
I get that.
unlawfully installed.
Just give me one example.
We can have a discussion about that all day long. But point being is that it's just like with President Trump and having the election stolen. That process was not. We can agree with parts of that election, but the process was not followed. Therefore, it needs to be decertified and nullify, decertified, and then go back and we either do a do-over, but we have to have the input from the people. It doesn't matter what my opinion is.
Donna, listen. I get all that, and I understand that, and I agree with you.
Tom, it's like
it does matter because here's why. Here's why these things matter. Because let's just say Because this is actually a really good one. Let's talk about the Trump situation. And I have made very public, I have said, I don't like the word steal. I don't like the word stop the steal. I don't like those things. I believe a number of states held unconstitutional elections because they did not follow the U.S. Constitution, nor did they follow their own state constitutions with regard to carrying out an election under a executive order from the governor in an emergency situation because of COVID, where they mailed out all these ballots and they did all these things, and none of them ever went through the legislature, through their state legislatures. Because none of them went through their state legislatures.
They didn't follow the process.
They didn't follow the process. I'm with you. Okay, I'm with you. Now,
same thing with the 63 Constitution.
To me, that doesn't mean it was stolen, even though I think that they corrupted the entire process by making these decisions. But here's my question to you:
is maladministration. So
got it. But now let's talk about the truth. Let's talk about now that is true. We agree that those things happen, right? Those are true statements. Okay. Now let's do what you want to do. And that is, let's nullify the Biden presidency, right? You want to do that, right?
We want to nullify the Biden presidency. 2020. That's not what I said. We need to nullify the election and have something that is honest and true, because there's too much proof that it was
okay. So nullify that election and redo it or whatever. Is anything that you are suggesting? Is anything you are suggesting going to change the situation with Hamas in Israel?
Is it going to change it now? Well, the whole thing is we have to remediate damage, but you got to start somewhere.
What about Ukraine? Would it change anything with going on with Ukraine?
You're going to have to start somewhere. So the point being is that you have to start peeling the layers off and deal with the problems that you have. I mean, I think that all the money that was laundered there, and gone, you can look at the bank accounts of some of these people and what they made.
Right.
And so
okay. So what are you going to do? Are you going to
start somewhere in an honest election? Is where it starts.
Is what you're suggesting to essentially, I guess, take all the money back from everybody who profited off the Biden administration? Let's just take it all back.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
How are you going to do that?
Well,
how do you think you do that?
How do we do that?
Yeah, how do you do that?
First of all, you have to have an investigation and see what happened. And then you're going to have to look at how they're profiting off of it, how they money launder.
Okay, so we do that, and we spend the next 30 years trying to understand.
So do you believe we just walk away from it, not even?
No, listen, I'm not saying that. I'm saying we have to be realistic. We cannot spend the next 30 years revisiting the election that occurred in 2020. If we do, we are going to miss a multitude of opportunities about doing the right thing right now to remedy and fix the situation. I'm not saying that, me, I'm a big fan of Ivan Raiklin. And Ivan Raiklin once, he says morally, ethically, and all this, but he didn't start off that way. Now he's talking about morally, ethically, legally, and all this, but it didn't start off that way. We were people talking about executions in the mall in Washington, D.C. and we're going to put them all in prison. We're going to put them all in jail. And we haven't even done the investigation yet. That's going to take 30 years. My point is,
it would be quicker than that. There's ways to get this thing done much quicker, but we've got to get the criminals out of the way. That's the first thing, is they've got to be removed. And I really do think that all of them need to be stripped of their citizenship or suspended until we get this figured out, because we know that they were involved.
But Donna, listen. I agree that there should be consequences for all of these activities.
Yes.
Okay. But I don't think you're taking into consideration the consequences of those consequences. The consequences of those consequences could be very, very, very far reaching. And we've got to be extremely prudent about what we do, because we're not always going to be in power. Remember that. The tide will shift.
We're not in power now.
No, but we're not always going to be in power. You're not always going to be in power. You don't always get to make the rules. And what we don't want is a level of victimization that is going to further tear apart the republic. We don't want that. We want answers, and we want to
Yeah.
make sure that those things never, ever happen again. And if somebody can be proven to have carried out a criminal activity, okay, or deprived somebody of their civil rights, then they should be held accountable.
The
And
entire legislature, as well as the governor of the state of Michigan, in my opinion, and I will give you an opinion on this, when they suspended the Constitution, broke the law. I mean, there is so many easy chip shots on this that
I think you're right.
Incredible.
I think you're right. And I think, and the Supreme Court looked at that with Texas v. Michigan in December of 2020, after the election. Texas filed a lawsuit against the state of Michigan and said, you guys carried out an unconstitutional election and it disenfranchised all of Texas from the rightful president. That's basically what the court case was. And the Supreme Court decided not to hear the case. Do you know why they decided not to hear the case?
Not sure what you're going to,
They didn't want to hear the case because the Supreme Court has a long-standing policy of not becoming involved in political decisions with regard to the United States. And that was, in their mind, was a purely political decision. Now, in retrospect, now that we know things like the information coming out of Georgia, the information that's come out of Arizona, now we have proven all those things to at least be true to some degree. I'm just going to say true to some degree. And then we also know about the FBI and the Hunter Biden laptop and Twitter and Facebook and the illegal counterintelligence investigations that disparaged Trump, and all done to influence the outcome of the election interference by the bureaucracy of the United States in collusion with the Democrat Party of Virginia, or Democrat Party. Okay, so now we're talking about something on a whole nother scale. Now we're talking about something that in the intelligence community we call OFCO, offensive counterintelligence operations. Essentially, what the bureaucracy did in collusion with governors and Democrats was they carried out an intelligence operation against the American people. And I could prove that. I could prove that. In front of anybody, I could prove that. But in any court of law, I could prove that if this was a foreign actor who did it, they would be charged with espionage. But because they're American citizens, and we have that pesky thing called the Constitution and free speech, that's how they get around it. Because they'll just say, well, those 51 intelligence officers, that was just their free speech. And if you believed it, you're a boob. That's what they'll say. They'll literally say, it was just our free speech. What crime did we commit? It's our free speech. There's no crime. You're not going to be able to prove a crime because most of them didn't have access to intelligence information. They were just expressing their opinion, which is free speech protected. So you're not going to be able to convict anybody on it. Not really. I don't think you can convict them. I mean, some of them you might be able to
look at
convince.
the structure. I mean, if you treated this like it was a company, the entire government is a company, and you went in there and said the system is absolutely wrong. We're going to change these policies, which are criminal and that have violated the Constitution, and you start nullifying it.
But there's no right. But here's the thing. There's no law that punishes anybody for violating their oath of office. Did you know that?
I believe that there is.
No, there is not.
You have to be able to take them out or remove them for violating their oath.
There's no law on the books. The only way to get somebody out legally, kind of, is the ethics committee. And then you can say, well, they violated their oath and therefore we're going to remove them or impeach them at their state level, right? Get them.
Well, if you did it with a pro se case, you can go after them for damages on a pro se case. And a lot of people are getting this done.
But those are civil cases. Those are not
but you
criminal.
You can still get to the end game of removing them.
Right. Okay. But what I'm getting at, look, all I'm trying to say is that there are ways to do this, but we've got to watch our own rhetoric. And we've got to be real logical and really methodical and very careful and very deliberate so that we don't fall into the same trap that they fall into, which is waging lawfare for political purposes. We want to wage lawfare for the rule of law, for what is right. Okay. But, and I believe that we are on the right in all these, in the bulk of these arguments, we are on the right side of this. Okay.
Agreed.
In fact, I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think of something we're not right on when you talk about being an American with conservative values. What I'm trying to get at is this, that we need to be very leery of anyone at any time who is saying things with no substantive facts. So like in this conversation that I'm having with you, I didn't say the election was stolen and they all need to burn in hell. They all need to be hung up. And I got no evidence of that. I just basically say it, right? Because it makes me feel good. That isn't what I said. I said there were unconstitutional elections that can only be resolved by the Supreme Court. They have a longstanding policy of not becoming involved in political decisions because they don't want to interfere in the political process in the United States, even though they probably should have now in retrospect. And I laid out all the reasons that they should have probably become involved in retrospect that many of us knew or suspected but couldn't prove but now can. Okay. But my overall point to you is if you go and do what you're suggesting, which is, nullify the election or whatever the case may be, there are going to be downstream consequences that, and there's many things you just simply can't undo. You can't undo Chinese aggression in the South China Sea because of the feckless leadership.
You can't control everything, but you've got to start looking at things and peeling back what you can.
Here's how you really deal with this situation.
Okay.
Here's how you really deal with the situation. You get really super smart about the details and the facts, and you throw all emotion aside, all passion. You look at the facts, and then you make sure that you document everything that happened. And if somebody did something criminal, you hold them accountable. But the ultimate thing is you make sure it never happens again. That's the best you can hope for, because you can't go back in time and change the damage, but you can prevent it from happening again. And that's what we have to be devoted to, is don't litigate the past, litigate the future. Make sure it never happens again. That is the rational way to deal with this problem. Now, again, that doesn't mean that if people committed criminal acts and I do believe that it was a form of espionage against the American people carried out by the Democrat Party in collusion with the FBI and the Department of Justice that basically did this Oppo information, this Oppo against the American people regarding Trump being an agent of the Russians, and at the same time then saying Hunter Biden's not a crackhead, banging midget prostitutes in China and taking millions of dollars from the Chinese and the Ukrainians, and they covered it up. I do believe that those things are all things that we need to take into consideration. And if there's criminal charges, then there should be criminal charges. But we can't live in the world of just, I'm angry, I hate the federal government. That is not effective, and it will not change anything. In fact, the only thing it will do is it'll put you on their radar as somebody who is a danger to the country, because you're not, you gotta have, if you have the fact, that's really what's protected me. That is what has protected me from the 2-year-long investigation that the FBI had in me. That's what protected me, because when they looked at everything I was doing, they knew they were like, Tom Speciale is the only one we can find that was speaking truth to power. The only one. And it's because I was doing it from within the system, doing it the right way. And I spoke truth to power, and I wasn't a whistleblower, but I was right in every single way. But it protected me because I was doing everything right, and I was doing everything above board, and I wasn't emotional about it. If we're emotional about it, we lose all credibility when we get emotional about the issues. So like another one is like I want to hear about the CGI thing. Where do you think they're using CGI? That I'm just curious. Where are they using CGI to, and to what end? To what purpose are they doing?
I see it all over the out there. I see it all the time. And
give me an example.
Lines around it. You can see the cut lines around people's heads. You can see the things that don't quite match up. I mean, there's a ton of it that's out there. I can pull it, but I can't do it while I'm online. But
give me an example. Give me an example of an event where they use CGI, and give me an example.
Event. I would rather show you, but I can show you lots of events that they've used CGI on that I don't buy it. Things don't match up. And
well,
so,
what were they saying then? Tell me what they were saying under CGI that doesn't match.
No, I'll pull that. I'll pull you examples if you really want to see them. Because
I do. Share me them.
To tell you it's not the same as showing you so you can see it.
Are you saying that there are people? Is this the story where Biden is not Biden? They're CGIing him, and are these stories where it's not Biden? Biden is 4'9", and
it's not just it's not just isolated to that. There's a lot of stuff out there. And when you look at the amount of people who are in positions that have an IMDb background on them and such, there's enough supporting evidence out there to support that. But when I look at it, I can see the difference between real footage and the stuff that's CGI. Probably not in all cases, but in a lot of them. And
but you're not telling me any instances though that I could even refer.
No, I'm not going to give you any instances, but I'll pull them. I'll show you. Because it's like that's one of those analytical things that no matter what I say, you're going to have an argument for.
No, I'm not going to. I want to see it. I just want an example so that I can understand what the purpose would be of using CGI. I'm just trying to figure out what you're talking about, and you're just saying they're using CGI, but I don't know what instance.
It's pushing public opinion into some direction.
Like, give me an example of a direction.
No, I'll have to show you, and then we'll have a discussion on it. But I'm not going to do that.
Well,
today.
I mean, this is a perfect example, Donna, of what I'm talking about, where I'm asking you for any kind of sourcing, and you're just like, it's just going on everywhere. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I can't.
It is going on everywhere. But I can provide you with sources on it, but I'm not going to do it right now.
And I got it. No, that's fine. That's fine. Share me.
I'm not going to be pushed into doing this while we're online. And
that's fine.
That ain't going to happen. So I can show you examples of this, because anything I say, you're going to counter.
Well, that's because that's what I do. That's what I do. I live in, and this is really our topic we wanted to talk about was truth, right?
Yeah.
I have had since I was a kid. I've had first of all, how would you define truth? What would you define truth as?
I'm going to the unchangeable realities and facts.
Good.
That never change. Like,
good. Yeah.
That's what they're unchangeable. Truth is truth.
Yeah.
No
Your first part. Your first part.
What narrative is out there?
Yeah, your first part is spot on. Your first part of that sentence that you said is absolutely spot on. Ignore the facts part, right? Because a fact could be somebody can write something on the internet, and it is a fact they wrote something on the internet. But
what they said may or may not be true.
Right, correct. It's a fact. It could be a bullshit fact, basically. But you said the first part is reality. Truth, I have a tattoo on my back, Veritas. I've had it on there since I was in my 20s. Veritas means truth in Latin. But it doesn't mean truth like we in common language think of truth. What that word actually means is reality. What is reality? That is what is true. And therefore, what is true is Veritas. What is true is reality. So, it is reality that the earth is round. That is a reality. It is a fact. It is not fact. It's true. It is true. But it is a truth, but it is reality. It is based in reality. Okay. Now,
that depends on who you talk to too. I mean, it's like,
that's not the same. You can't do that. You cannot do that, because now you are going to somebody who is on the fringe of reality telling you that the earth is flat. But just because
I don't really care. That's my problem, is that this is one of those issues that I don't care.
Why not? Why wouldn't you care about people lying to you about the earth being flat?
I don't care. People have their own opinions on everything all the time. I'm too busy for that kind of nonsense. That's just nonsense. All of it.
But don't. But
Even
don't.
a discussion on that is nonsense. Okay, there's all these discussions that are just kind of like that. People talk, but we don't have to hammer them for their opinions. They can have their opinions all they want, and if that's their issue, who cares?
Right. It depends though on if they tell you that it is the reality. If it isn't the reality, then you have a responsibility to stand up to them and say that is not the reality.
No, I don't. I'm not responsible for the people's thought process. They have the right to have their thought process.
So then, if
I let
that's
people
the
talk
case,
on here all day, and I don't agree with necessarily what they say, but I do agree that they have the right to their opinions and their right to say whatever they want to say.
Of course, 100%.
So law. This is Brandenburg News Network, and they can say whatever they want. And I think we should consider everything before being the broker of information, because we have been lied to on so many levels. There's so much lying.
But you're missing. You're jumping past the point. Truth is reality. What is reality is truth. Any deviation from that, whether it's an opinion or whatever, is not reality. And in many cases, it can be delusion, or it could be. In many cases, it could be mental illness.
Well, people sometimes have to figure things out on their own too, and they have the right to explore.
In many cases, it could be just totally misinformed.
Could be.
In many cases, it could also be they know better, and they make money off of convincing you of something, which is actually the more common case.
I would agree with that.
Okay, so I would argue that if the topic is not based in reality, okay, then that is where if it's not based in reality, I'm not going to have the conversation, because it's not reality. I'm helping you perpetrate your delusion, or I'm helping you perpetrate your misinformation, or I'm helping you perpetrate the lie that you're either telling yourself or maybe telling your friends and family or whatever. I'm enabling your delusion or your effort to profit off of it.
But do you think
I
that
am not standing up to you about reality?
Do you believe that everyone has that there are people out there that have all the answers and are correct on all sides?
No, I don't. I don't think anybody has all the answers. Nobody has all the answers.
So nobody has a grasp really on reality, because there's error in everyone, is what I'm hearing you say.
Well,
so then how do you shut people down?
No, some things,
considering what they say.
Some things are indisputably reality, right? Like some things are indisputably reality. They are true. So, like for example, let me try and find one that's not as delusional based.
My conversations with you, by the way, are fun for me.
Good. I'm glad, because I feel like I know I'm confronting you a little bit, but I also, a lot of people, listen, Donna, a lot of people tell me, why do you even waste time talking to these people that believe that the earth is flat, or that
Because I care about them as human beings. I care about people as human beings.
I do.
And I'm willing to listen to people, whether I agree or disagree with them, because I think that's a healthy way to have a conversation.
Correct.
And ramrodding push down people's throats don't work well.
For me, it's the only way that I can. It's the only way that I can get inside the narrative loop with some of these conversations, unless you go to where they're having the narrative conversation. Right. You have to go there, otherwise you're not really part of the solution. You're part of the problem, and I prefer to be part of the solution. So I'm trying to think of a really good one, like off the top of my head, I can't think of a fantastic example, but
of what truth is. I'll give you a truth that I believe to be true.
Okay, that's a good start. Let's do that.
Okay,
truth you believe to be. I wanted to talk about human trafficking, for example, and I wanted. Well,
we can go into that too, because of the proof of what our government is doing to pay for taking kids back home and not actually accomplishing the goal. There's a lot of things out there we can look at and say this is not okay.
Right.
So,
but what's your truth? What's your truth?
Men have different chromosomes from women.
Correct. Okay.
That is a truth.
Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
Which determines us as either male or female.
Correct.
Okay. That is a truth. They're
That
going
is
to
a
dig
reality.
guys up in 1,000 years. They're going to look at the bones and they're going to say that is in fact a male and this is in fact a female.
That's correct.
Take all the craziness out of it. I, in fact, know what a woman
100%.
is. All right?
Totally agree.
And I, in fact, know what a man is. That is a chromosomal delineation
Male.
there. And and so that is not one of those things you're going to change. And
Right.
it's like you could, if a guy wants to be a woman and he's not a woman, I personally, and this is my belief system, believe that what we're seeing in the Olympics and the bodies of people that have been, especially women in the Middle East that have been paraded around after they were raped and killed, is an assault on women. And for whatever reason, I think that this whole thing is completely despicable.
I think you're right. I
back
100%
my
agree
opinions?
with
Yes,
you.
I do. I think
Yeah,
this is.
I 100% agree with you. I think that all of this stuff that's going on, it really is. And you and I have talked about we're actually in spiritual warfare. These are all the physical manifestations of spiritual warfare that's going on in the world. And your previous guest was talking about, what is good is evil and what is evil is good. And I've been saying that for years and years and
Yes.
years. That we are promoting evil and we are dismissing what is good. Okay. And so like these examples now are like, if we don't fix this, I like timelines, right? A timeline. If we don't fix this, basically men are going to be dominating all women's sports, and there'll be all transgender male or transgender female volleyball teams who will win the Olympics, and no one will have no actually women's team will have a chance of winning. Swimming, boxing, the cross country, boating, like virtually everything about the Olympics will be distorted by
it's
this.
canceling women. All of this stuff that I've seen has canceled women. Like, and I'm going to go back to the feminist movement and everything.
Yeah, it's worse than that.
Literally canceled what it means. And it's like when somebody tells me that they're trans or they're this, that, and to be a woman, I am in absolutely insulted by this.
Well, let me put it to you this way.
When I watch somebody at the, I didn't watch it because I won't watch the Olympics because I think it's bullshit. Is that when I watch that or hear about a woman getting beaten by a pathetic male who is trying to just be.
Let me put it to you this way, though, Donna.
Anybody that watches this is they're watching abuse on a woman. And I think it's despicable.
Yeah. I think it's worse than that. I think it's worse than that.
Okay.
I think that, and I have said for years since I was a kid, for years, I have said men and women are not equal and they have never been equal physiologically.
No, that you're absolutely right.
Physiologically, they have never been and never will be equal.
Every guy on the planet has got 100 times more testosterone than I have at any point in time.
Legally, we should be equal. Legally, like protections of the law, we need to be treated equally in the law, etc. Has nothing to do with gender, has nothing to do with sex, has nothing to do with anything, has to do with being a human being. Everybody should be treated equally and fairly, and it should be impartial. Legally. But what are the principal differences between men and women? And I love Jordan Peterson. I've been following Jordan Peterson I'm a disciple of Jordan Peterson. If you're not following him, everybody out there watching this, you need to follow Jordan Peterson, and you need to read his books because it will change your life. He gives you a lot of the words for a lot of the things we believe, and he gives you a lot of the science for a lot of the things we believe. But really, and I'm going to totally butcher this and paraphrase it, but what Jordan Peterson would basically say is something to the effect that
gotta stick to truth, Tom.
Men are uniquely special for their role in human civilization to be the protector, the builder, the leader, and I'm totally paraphrasing this, but they are uniquely designed to be that, to function as that role for human civilization to continue. And females are also uniquely designed to enable the success and prosperity and growth of human civilization. They are both uniquely special for their role in our human civilization. And what we are doing with regard to women is we are erasing your unique specialty in our civilization.
And
we
men
are saying
too. It's like they are
and men too,
erasing
but
all of us.
But really what they're basically saying is the only thing that makes you what you are is your sex organ.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, they have diminished the contributions of women to all of humanity to nothing more than a sex organ. And to me, that is
insulting.
It's beyond that. It's abhorrent to everything we believe as human beings to minimize all women to nothing more than a sex organ. And that it's infuriating and saddening to me that women are the ones that have been promoting this, not realizing that they are erasing their own uniqueness in human civilization. And I say this all the time. Men were assholes up until women got legal protections. Men were assholes. We were barbaric. We were not considerate. All of them were visiting the whorehouse every Friday and Saturday night. They weren't compassionate. They weren't raising their kids. Most of them, the mother solely did it. And the only raising that the man gave them was that he put money on the table and the woman was just supposed to shut up and cook. And now the society has changed, right? Because of legal protections, not because they couldn't always all along do those things, but because of the changes in our legal system to basically give them the protections, I believe, physically and economically and legally that they should have had all along. But
unless you met my grandma was kind of a force to be reckoned with.
Mine too.
It's like I think blanket statements too. There's changes within this. I don't know if you know this, but when property rights really started for women, this is going to be a hard pill for people to swallow. But it came from those that came up with Sharia law, because they came up with that to protect the women in that regard for property rights. Now, is it a pure system? No, I don't agree with Sharia law, and I don't agree with it here on our shores, okay? Because it's turned into a military effort, not a religious effort or even a moral effort, right?
Right. So, but your point is well taken, that there was an element of this cultural law that had evolved in the Middle East that was adapted, but ultimately it should have always been there. The Christians were supposed to be doing it too. And so were the Jews. Everybody was supposed to be doing it, and they didn't because men were assholes.
Well, okay? I don't necessarily believe that either, because look at in Bible times, there were people like Lydia. She had a business, and there were people that were very respected. And so it's not across the board. But when you see those specific instances, like a guy beating the hell out of some woman at the just short of brain damage, at the Olympics, and people are watching this, they're complicit in enabling this crime. They need to turn it off. They need to defund it. It needs to be done and over with, because this is on a moral basis, one at a time. This is a problem, and we should know the difference between doing right and wrong behavior. But also, we do have to talk to each other, because people see things from different angles. And we may be missing something that we're in agreement with on a good portion of it, but maybe we didn't see it from this angle.
Well, I would say I just saw, and I saw it on Twitter. I haven't researched it, but I saw it on Twitter that the International Boxing Association had barred both of those athletes from competing in the International Boxing Association, period, as women, because they had done some tests. They had done some tests, and they don't say that it's a testosterone test, but they had done some tests and determined that they had an unfair advantage fighting women. And I don't know what that all means. All I know is that the International Boxing Association had already barred them from competing, and the Olympics allowed them to compete. It is mind-boggling to me that these things aren't clear as a bell to everyone. But I think that there's a level of, and this will kind of take us in a different area, but there's a level of cognitive dissonance on the left where, like, when you talk to them about the gun violence in the inner city, they go to racism. And you're like, but there's no white people there. It's all black on black crime. And, and it's total cognitive dissonance. You say 90% of all homicides happen in that neighborhood. And they're like, oh yeah, but it's about poverty. Instead of saying it's the breakdown of the family and it's all the stuff that the liberal policies of the Democrats have put on them for 50 years. They don't want to accept responsibility. The bottom line is that when exposed to the truth, they become responsible for these things. And that's why they stand by and they support the Olympics and they support all the LGBTQ stuff with the Olympics. And they pretend like we didn't really mean to offend anybody with the Last Supper deal with all the transgender. You know what I mean? Like, really? How could you not have wanted to offend, basically the whole global population that are Christians, Jews, Muslims, everybody? Every man of faith or woman of faith was offended by that, almost regardless of their religion, probably, because they know that their religion is next, right? So my point is there's a level of cognitive dissonance, but I do believe, based on a lot of what I'm seeing on Twitter, I do believe that a lot of just simple people, Donna, are waking up to the left woke mind virus. I love what Elon Musk calls it, the woke mind virus of evil, because that's really what it is. I mean, I saw just as an example of how insane things have gotten. I saw a video and I shared it, and it was a bunch of grown women that were furries, teenagers and up, that were barking like rabid animals. Like a whole chorus of like 40 of these women were doing this, dressed as little doggies, barking like dogs at basically counter protesters. And not that long ago, every single one of them would have been locked up and put in a mental institution for thinking they were a dog, or even actively pretending to be a dog, or wanting other people to also pretend to be dogs. Okay, this is evil. It is mental health. It is absolutely destructive. It is not based in reality. And the left is in cognitive dissonance. They don't want to accept responsibility for all this crazy evil shit that's going on in the world. They just don't.
Well, they're programmed it. The problem is that there is true mental health. And I think that my daughter, my youngest daughter, has mental health. She's missing half of her brain. Her biological mother, got killed at her side in a train accident. And we've lived this for 20 some odd years, 28 years almost. And it's like, but she is truly mentally ill. And there's a big difference between somebody who's been, who has true clinical mental illness.
Sure.
And people who are making choices that we think are crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
to me is mental illness. I mean,
but you know what? The thing of it is that there's different levels of that. Like, I had one person, a tenant, that came to me one day, and his dog was peeing on the floor in a common area. And I've talked to it for the last 2 weeks. It just happened a couple of weeks ago. And I walked up there. I'm like, this ain't happening again. Your dog doesn't get to piss on the floor. All the other tenants have to walk past. He's like, well, I'll clean it up. He's incompetent. And I said, no, your dog doesn't get to piss on the floor. And he goes, oh, the language you use. And I said, I identify as a person who says whatever the hell I want to say. You don't have to agree with me. I don't really have to agree with what people do. If they want to be stupid, I'm going to probably laugh at them and not buy into their stuff. But I'm not going to sit there and go head to head with them on it. I may just look at it, go, and just walk my own way because I don't care enough.
Well, no, that's fine, and that's what a lot of us are doing. But what I'm trying to say is
now you go after my kids, and it's another story.
The promoting of it as that it's normal behavior is problematic, because that is the thing that is corrosive to our human civilization. And that's why I love the term that Elon Musk uses regarding the woke mind virus. Did you see the hour before you got on here? And we were talking about the schools in Michigan that in order to get the COVID money, they had to agree to terms and conditions to that money, including forced vaccinations
against the will of the parents and without the parents' knowledge. That is mental illness. That is thinking that
Now,
you
that's
are
actually, I think that's just straight up criminal. I don't think that's mental illness, but it's criminal.
That is absolutely, well, what's the law? I got to quote the law then if you're going to say it's criminal. But yes, it's like we have to stay within the law if we're doing this. I believe that the children are the property of the parents until they're 18. And I believe anyone that's a constitutional basis for this, and that if we start chipping away at that, we've got a problem. These people that try to be God and tell everybody what is going to be is a problem. There's a good deal of this that we just need to, no tolerance. You have to look at it in your own life too. It starts with looking at your own self and taking the plank out of your own eye, and then living as an example and trying to help people, but not buying into it. I mean, we've got to be strong enough on our own to be able to stand on our own feet and absolutely not buy into this. But our nation has been so damaged that a human being, there's human beings involved in this, and there's criminals.
I agree. I agree. We are. I have said for a long time, we're both two things. We're in a spiritual war.
Yes,
and we're also in a cultural revolution. That's the physical manifestation of a spiritual war that's going on.
And whose fault is that? It's the fault of the people that haven't stepped up to say something.
That's correct.
And to say, first of all, you got to defend your own ground. First of all, this ain't happening in my family.
That's right.
And this is not happening. And whether you pull your kids out of these indoctrination camps where they have signed up to vaccinate and kill your children without your knowledge. Okay, or to mutilate your children without your knowledge. Who is at fault in these stages of the game? It's the parents' fault. If everybody grabbed their kids and said, "You are not doing this,"
and let's not forget that parents that were against these things were labeled domestic terrorists by the FBI.
Yes, and well, all of us were that did the wrong thing. I mean, but you know what? When you have the guts to face it, they back down. I went up to 2 cops when this COVID nonsense started, and I'm like, arrest me now because I will not comply. And I'm like, if you're going to arrest me, let's get this thing out of the way so that we can start hammering this thing out, because I won't comply.
Right.
And that's the way it's going to be.
What was it you weren't complying with?
The mask, the closing down my business. I refuse to do any of it. Right. Like so you might as well arrest me now, and we'll start chipping away at this. And I'm gonna get a bunch of people that are going to back this, and we're gonna make this into the biggest issue that you're gonna crawl to get away from the ass chewing you're gonna get from Brandenburg.
Well, and I do think, Donna, that is all. We have to get through. We basically got to get Trump back in office. Once we get Trump back in office, the truth is all going to be revealed. He's going to reveal everything.
I think so too, but that doesn't absolve us. Like when you're talking about sustainability and going forward, so that never happens again. You can't say we're going to make sure President Trump gets in is the rightful governor of the United States, which he already is, and be able to walk away from it. He has to be in place. We are going to have to nullify all of this crap and get back to basics there. It's got to happen. And it's going to cause some disruptions and problems, but that's okay. There is no other way out of that.
Other than the immigration issue, which I do think that we could do a lot to
why don't we wage war on these cartels, these drug cartels,
I know.
which is running Mexico?
And we're going to have.
Why don't we go in there like we're actually trying to win this, and just come down on them and unleash a new kind of hell that they have never even imagined would be possible.
Okay,
and
so
then
we could get it. Wait, hold on.
People.
Listen, let me. Okay. I spent a lot of time studying the drug war. Okay, I spent a lot of time studying the drug war. Okay. I'm just going to ask you some very basic economic questions. Okay, on how the economy works.
It's for shit right now.
Let's just hold on. Let's just say that 1,000 kilos of cocaine come into the country every year. That's 1,000 kilos of cocaine come into the year. That's the number we're going to use as our
that we know of. Okay.
That's just the number we're going to use for our topic here.
Okay.
And let's say that they sell those kilos of cocaine for $1,000 per kilo of cocaine. Okay. So So 1,000 kilos come in, they make $1,000.
Okay.
If I cut the number of kilos of cocaine down to 500, okay, now only 500 kilos of cocaine are coming in. How much does each one of those kilos of cocaine go for?
Same amount.
No, it goes for $2,000 because the demand is still for 1,000 kilos. So that means people are willing to pay twice as much. So
well, that's saying that they are willing to pay twice as much, and where are they going to get the money from?
They will. They will rob.
Talking about stuff like that.
They will find the money. Trust me. Okay. They will find the money, and so the kilo of cocaine goes to $2,000 per. But the only difference is now the drug dealer only has to make 500 transactions. Okay, so the drug dealer only has to make 500 transactions. Before he had to make 1,000 transactions, so his risk is actually higher. His risk of arrest is higher because he has to do twice as many transactions for the same amount of money. So what I'm trying to explain to you is this, that when you disrupt the supply of drugs coming into the country, the price of drugs will go up. When the price of drugs go up, the incentive to sell drugs rapidly increases because you can make
deal with the problem.
Because you can make more money on fewer transactions. The risk is lower and you make more money. So you've increased the incentive to sell drugs when you disrupt the supply.
I guess
now,
I'm not saying we don't disrupt the supply. Then, you know, right? It's like
the only things you can do, there's only a couple things you can do. And I've studied the drug war for years. The only thing you can do is kill off all the drug dealers. Are you willing to kill off all the drug dealers in the United States?
I don't think that's a bad plan. They know
they're just doing. They're just kids. Most of them are just kids.
We're talking dealers. We're not talking the distributors.
That's who's selling the drugs, 18, 19, 20-year-old kids.
Well, I guess they better smarten up real quick because even President
Are you willing to kill them?
Punishment.
Are you willing to kill them? Put them up for execution for selling drugs. Kids. At 18, 19 years old.
Yeah, I think I would be. They know what they're doing. I had a friend.
That's the tyranny that the left is worried about with us, Donna.
Too bad. Maybe they're involved in it. I had a friend whose son was killed by fentanyl. The dealer
I know.
killed him and knew it. That's murder. That's intentional murder. They know what they're doing.
I understand. Listen, I understand that. But what I'm trying to get
you better raise your damn kids better. And you know, I'm sorry.
Because the only way you can't kill the drug dealers. You can't. I'm sorry. No matter how much you'd like to kill all the drug dealers, you can't. You can't go and wage war in Mexico.
Cut the supply lines. You got to cut it.
You can't. It raises the price and incentivizes the drugs.
Somebody's not doing a good job of it then.
Donna, I'm giving you the reality. I know it's uncomfortable. You can't disrupt the supply without increasing the price. If you do, you incentivize the sale, which incentivizes the manufacture, which builds the cycle again. That's why the war on drugs has never worked.
Well,
it has never worked.
If we start thinking that way, then we might as well just hang it up and give our keys over.
No. The solution is reducing the demand. If you reduce the demand and no one is buying the drugs,
how are you going to do that? That hasn't worked either.
No, actually the only successful anti-drug campaign in the history of the United States that ever worked was Nancy Reagan's Just Say No, where they talked about the consequences of drug addiction so often on television that kids were turning away from drugs. It's the only successful campaign that's ever worked.
Well,
I will tell you this.
Work together, because I'm kind of like in the President Trump camp, where capital punishment for drug dealers.
The fentanyl importers, I agree with that. I think that you got to go after the fentanyl importers, but not the dealers.
That's a military move. That's not a.
But here's the real issue. Here's probably the real solution.
Okay.
Probably the real solution is something about like what Venezuela has done. What Venezuela did is they decriminalized the drugs. In other words, if you were caught with drugs or were using drugs, they didn't automatically put you in prison.
I agree with that, because it's too easy to frame people that are users. You've got to go after the dealers. You've got to go.
But listen.
Okay.
What Venezuela did, not Venezuela, Portugal. What Portugal did was they decriminalized all drug use for personal use. If it was for personal use, you were not going to go to jail. They put you in front of a panel, and it was a social worker, a judge, and a social worker, a judge, and a doctor. They put you in front of a panel and they said, do you want help? Do you want help with your drug addiction? And if they said yes, the state provided them help, period. If they said no, they let them go. Okay? Now, when they decriminalized the drugs, the use, so it was no longer you were going to go to jail, what do you think happened to the number of drug users that were in the communities? What do you think happened to the number of them that were in the communities when they decriminalized the drugs?
I have no idea. It probably went up, but the dealers went down.
No, it stayed exactly the same. The number of users stayed exactly the same. It didn't change. What do you think happened to the number of people getting help?
Probably went up because they would come forward.
It doubled. So you were actually able to help more people. When you decriminalized the drugs, you were able to get more help to people. Now, what do you think happened to, now this was a crazy one. What do you think happened to crime?
Well, if the money's not there, the crime is going to change incredibly.
It did. It changed incredibly because they didn't have to steal car radios to get drugs anymore because it was decriminalized. So they didn't have to hide it.
Less money.
So there was less other crimes as a result of it because of the decriminalization of drugs. And then lastly, what do you think happened to the HIV infection rate?
Probably went down because they could get needles.
Correct. So again, the solution of disrupting the supply only incentivizes drug sales because you increase the value of the drugs.
I've actually considered that, the decriminalizing the drug usage, and I've actually talked about that because that's there's so much coercion, blackmail, and that sort of thing going on that the decriminalizing of the drugs. I mean, they can throw a package of, whatever in your car and all of a sudden you're a criminal. They've been doing it all over the place. So They use it to set people up. But there's some things that we need to talk about. Now, a lot of people are going to come on here and say, well, no, you're wrong. That's not truth. I mean, that's why we have to have an open dialogue with people, because there is such a diversity in ways that we have to come to what's the best solution, lawful solution. But to determine what is truth and what is not truth, you're going to have a discussion, and you're going to have to go through a lot of discussions with a lot of different people.
Let me ask you this: why do you think, knowing all of that about now about what they did in Portugal and the success there, who do you think is against decriminalizing drugs in the United States?
CIA.
Because they make money off it, right?
They sure do.
But who else?
Probably a lot of people that are the movers and shakers.
No. Law enforcement. Law enforcement loses 90% of their job the minute they're not out there trying to bust people with marijuana and cocaine and crack. The minute they are no longer doing that and can't arrest people, we lose the need for half of our law enforcement.
Well, law
enforcement is totally against it because it's job security for them. Now, let me ask you another one.
There's some other points to that, some finer points that you may not have experience in that I do. When they opened everything up to pot in Michigan, marijuana is legal in Michigan. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what happened here is that a lot of the farms that grow marijuana in the state of Michigan are Chinese owned. And so there's some actually really easy ways to stop some of this nonsense. And I can also tell you that there are clear and present threats to some of this. Like, I cannot go into certain places because I have to be able to pass a drug test. And so when you go into a public place and that's allowed, which I've been into a couple places, I've had to literally walk out. and I won't stay there because I can't stay there because they're allowing.
Are you talking about like restaurants and stuff like that, or?
You can do that at one of the concert venues in Grand Rapids. They say it's a no smoking venue for anything, but we were in there at one concert, and you could see chimneys of pot going up, and we literally walked out, and I talked to the manager, and I said, I want my money back. I cannot be here because we will fail a drug test with as much pots in the air here. And you said that this was a non-smoking venue. I've never smoked a cigarette. I've never smoked pot because I've worked too hard my whole life to actually earn money. And
Right.
having anything that's going to take that ability or cloud my judgment is not going to happen.
Right.
And if I have to pass a drug test, by God, I'm going to be able to pass that drug test, right?
Right.
And so, because I'm not going to have somebody take my license. But if you get somebody, you have no idea how many people will bust a drug test in industrial settings that you have to get rid of them. And so now half of your workforce is not either not
right.
able to.
So therein lie. I think one of the demand reduction techniques is to require drug testing, right? To get certain jobs. I'm all on board.
You
but
have
let me
to
ask you,
already do that.
I know.
I
have never done any drugs in my entire life ever. Like
no, me either.
And I've had a security clearance since I was like 18. Actually, probably since I was 18 years old, I've had a security clearance, right? Urinalysis
I've never even
test every
smoked
month.
a cigarette. I just like it wasn't.
I smoke cigars.
I'm like, what?
I smoke cigars. Do you drink though? Do you drink alcohol of any kind?
Yeah, that's my thing. Is I'll have a drink once in a while.
Yeah, I drink. I drink beer.
But if
I drink some scotch.
Yeah, it's not one of those things that if I like bourbon. And so, but my favorite place is to go in the horse barn in my house and end my night with a shot. And that's about, but I don't.
Well, you do live in Michigan on a horse farm. So, I mean, there's that.
You have to.
You have to. It's part of it. In
required.
fact, it's kind of a joke right now because my wife and I are watching Peaky Blinders. Did you watch Peaky Blinders?
I don't watch TV.
It's a series. It's a series on Netflix, and it's about basically this criminal gang that rises to power in the UK, and it's like in the early 1900s, I guess. And all they drink is bourbon and scotch. I don't know how these people survived, right? But I found out that bourbon and scotch, because I'm on keto right now, bourbon and scotch has 0 carbs, and my beer has 12 carbs per beer, and so I'm going Peaky Blinders. I'm just going to start drinking scotch and bourbon because this guy.
Yeah, there you go. I've got a couple.
That's my excuse. The last thing
I don't drink chick drinks or anything like that because it's just too many calories.
Yeah, there's a lot of calories in it.
Too many
but
calories.
I want to leave you with one other thing on this drug thing that is very important. There's another group of people that are very against the decriminalization of drugs, and that is the Bureau of Prisons, the people who run the prisons, because they make a ton of money off the state by incarcerating people that are in there for drug usage. So
that needs a complete reform too. I mean, you look at the whole thing. This is what my point was: is we have got to nullify so much stuff and reverse it because it's all based on people who are in there for personal.
Well, here's how they got away with it. Here's how they got away with it for so long, Donna, is that we didn't have access to the information. Now we have access to the information, and they're not able to lie to us. And people would just go into the prisons and disappear. Now they can't disappear because they got social media there too. So my point is, we did away with the mental health hospitals. The mental health crisis is out of control. The drug war is off the chain. We're losing, 9,000 young men every year in these inner cities over the drug war. We've got 1.6 to 2 million attempted suicides every year. Many of those are drug related. We've got a huge problem with drugs, mental health, and the criminal justice system. And it's a industry. This whole thing is an industry.
It is an industry.
So we've got to look.
Like politics is.
Yep. We've got to look at the real success rate, the real reformation, the reforming that's happening in these prisons. We've got to come up with a better solution. I talked to a senior guy in the Bureau of Prisons out in Utah a couple years ago, and he was a senior guy at the prison. And we were just shooting the shit. And I said, hey, what percentage of, and I already knew kind of the answer, but I was trying to get his answer. I said, what percentage of the people in prison belong there? And what do you think was his answer? About 50% of them, about 50% of them actually belong there. The other 50% of them don't belong there at all. They are low-level drug criminals. They stole a car. They stole something from a convenience store or whatever. You know, they don't belong in prison, right? So the people or are mentally ill. Many of them are mentally ill. So what we've done is we've put all our violent mental ill patients in prisons where they get no help. And so the mental health crisis, the gun violence crisis, the drug addiction crisis, the suicidal ideation, the loss of hope, the familyness, the broken families, the fatherlessness, the joblessness, the homelessness, the hopelessness, all of this is a result of one group of people. All of it. Democrats. They're the ones that have created this because they are in charge of the most populated cities with the highest crime rates, with the highest drug addiction, with the highest fatherlessness rate. They are and they have been in charge of those cities for 50 to 100 years. So you can't blame Republicans for any of this because they own it. They own it. And
I can blame both sides because when I look back at the 2020 election and the Republicans did nothing, they should have.
That's a different conversation, Donna.
Okay, but you're saying that the cities and the destruction in the cities are from Democrat manipulated policies.
No, it's because of Democrat ideology. It's because of their ideology.
Let's call it Marxist. Let's call it Marxist.
I agree that in many cases it's Marxist and in some cases it's communist. Okay. Yes. Literally it is. They don't, but at the same time. It kind of becomes
synonymous at this point in time.
So what I try and do is I think, okay, look, Marxist is true. Communist is true. Okay. But they call themselves Democrats. So I'm going to call them what they want to be called. They want to be called Democrats. Everybody knows who they really are. We all know. But we do know that the Democrats are the ones that have been in charge of those cities. And it's not getting any better. It's getting worse. And in fact, if you go look at my Twitter feed, you're going to see that I am sharing the crap out of all of the Black community and the Latino community that is waking up and that are going to be voting for Trump in November. They're all waking up to the evil of the Democrat ideology to destroy their families, to destroy their hopes and dreams, to basically marry all their women to the state, to indoctrinate their children into, crazy ideologies. They're waking up and they're fed up. And my favorite thing they're saying is that the Black community is calling the immigration problem the Great Replacement. And that's a term that was used by white nationalists for years about the Blacks replacing the whites. And now the Blacks are calling it the Great Replacement with regard to the Latinos coming into the country. And they are blaming the Democrats for the Great Replacement. So we are making headway, Donna. We are actually probably in the strongest position we've been in. And I said this when Donald Trump did not win the election in 2020, okay, because of all the bullshit, because of all the stuff they did, and Donald Trump did not become the president, the 46th president. When he did not become the 46th president, here's what I said to my mom, who's a total QAnon nut. And I said to her, God's got a plan. God has a plan. And I believe that plan is to reveal all their evil. Because we already knew, there are those of us that were already paying attention. We already saw the evil. But we would not have had all the evil revealed had Biden not gone into the White House, Donna. They went crazy with the LGBT
Sometimes
stuff.
You have to show people.
Well, and sometimes God has to show people. That's right. And he did. He has. And the Black community is waking up. They think Donald Trump's going to get as much as 30% of the Black vote. That will destroy the Democrat Party forever in this country if we can keep 30% of the Black vote. It'll destroy that. It'll destroy that party. That party will be gone. The rhinos will become the Democrat Party. And at least they believe in the Second Amendment. They actually believe in God mostly. Okay, but the Democrats are like off the deep end. And
Well,
so I believe
that's another discussion, because I think that
Yeah.
everything's been infiltrated, including the Republican Party.
I
And
know.
that's another
I know.
discussion, because I think any protected group, we've got a problem. If you can't question them, if you can't question things and get your questions answered, we have a big problem.
No, you're
And
right.
I think there's a lot of good people that have been misled by the Democrat Party but there's a lot of good people that are being misled by the Republican Party right now.
That's right.
Because and so when we try to align with any of these groups, we face a very real threat about being, can't think for ourselves and can't be an independent thinker and not just go along to get along or be part of the crowd.
Yeah.
We risk.
Yeah, I am
astray.
I
You
am
got
a
to think for yourself, and regardless what anybody says,
That's
you
correct.
have to make up your own mind. And before
I am
God,
a-
that's what he's looking for.
Yeah, I am a Christian, constitutional conservative. I am not a Republican. I just have no other choice but to be a Republican because the Democrats are so evil off the deep end that I have to vote for a Republican. But I am a Christian first, and then I'm a constitutionalist, and then after that, or I'm a constitutional conservative. And I think, and that's what I'm doing with my organization, Chasing Freedom Virginia. That's what we're doing. We are people of faith, because at least that's a far cry better than people with no faith, right? But we are predominantly Christians, like probably 95%. 95, we're Christians, we're constitutionalists, and we're conservatives, and we believe in the founding fathers' bedrock principles of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and a small government. Bottom line, that's it. And if you do those things, then I'm with you. If you don't do those things, then we're gonna crack heads. We're gonna go toe to toe, especially in places where I don't think that the reality supports your position, which we did here today, and I appreciate it.
I think we need to talk about all things, and no matter what position people come from, I'm willing to listen to people, even if I don't agree with what they say, and have those discussions and try to come to an agreement, things that we can agree on, and then maybe come to just some better understanding. That
That's
really
true. That is true.
That really is an important thing,
That is true.
And the reality is that I believe that there's a lot of groups that have been used for political and financial gain that had nothing to do with what they were thrown into.
Listen to what you just said. Listen to what you just said. You said the reality is I believe X, Y, and Z. Leave out the believe part.
The reality
is X.
The reality is, okay, I'll give you that. The reality is that there's many groups that have been used to further really evil plans of people that are sitting at the top. We have to be wise to that because they're in everything. It doesn't matter where you go. The good guys are lying because they don't want the bad guys to know what they're doing. All right. That's reality right there. They're not going to come out and say, well, boys and girls, this is what we're going to do today. And so just watch. No,
of course. Yeah.
That is not reality.
Yeah,
and so, but the reality is that there's bad people in every organization or people with bad intention. And you've got to listen to them, not just I listen to them just for information. I want to try to figure out who I'm talking to, because people are talking out of both sides of their mouths constantly. And you give enough rope, they'll always hang themselves every single time. It's just a matter of time. And if you're a little bit patient.
Right.
So anyhow, somebody said, did anyone experience a glitch on Rumble? Yes, I'm watching one of the Rumble channels go one of the Rumble channels go kind of glitchy there, but we're back, and it's gonna be. You can always go back and watch the rerun.
What kind of feedback? What kind of feedback are you getting? Are you getting chat messages during our conversation?
Yeah, there's some in here, and one of them says, "Tell Tom to talk about natural law as a source of truth."
Amen. Natural law. Thank you for that question. Thank you for reminding me.
The phones.
The what?
People are looking at the phones. A subcommittee could handle investigating 2020 while the rest of us continue to move forward.
That's true. That is true.
And the Tom said, "Isn't that what he's saying? What Donna is doing?" Thank you, Tom. Yes, it is what I'm doing. Donna, you're logical. Thank you. Math is true. Thank you. Yeah, I'm a pretty.
Let me talk a little bit about natural law real quick, because I don't get a chance. It doesn't come up in conversation very often. The founding fathers were all men of faith. And they believed that those They already believed that those rights in the Bill of Rights that Christians or believers already had, right? But they also knew that there were people out there who did not have their faith and did not have their same beliefs. And so what they did is they insisted on adding them to the Constitution as a Bill of Rights, as essentially a bill of God-given human rights. And that's really what they are. They are natural rights, which means they come from just being a human being. First of all, you have those rights naturally. No government gives them to you. They do not come from the Constitution. They come from God. They come from being a human being and being a cognizant, a human being with thought, right? They come from that, but they had to write it down on a piece of paper because there's a lot of people out there who don't have those same beliefs, and they don't think that you have rights as a human being, and that they would basically tyrannize you. And that has been, I believe, the Bill of Rights has been probably the single most divinely.
Take the I believe out, Tom, and say the Bill of Rights.
Well, I do know this based on my faith, okay, but yes. I believe because there's no, and I believe there's some evidence to this, but I don't want to get too far afield.
That's
but
okay.
My belief is that was the most divinely inspired part of the Constitution, for them to write down the natural law for people who did not believe in God. Because what they did essentially is they gave human rights from God to people who did not believe in a God. So even if you didn't believe in a God, they were going to make sure that you had those rights. And I don't believe that that's ever been done before in human history, that the people in power wrote down rules and laws that would protect the people from themselves, because they were the people in power at that time. And they wrote that Bill of Rights to protect the people from the government that they were forming. That is a divinely inspired idea. And it was based in faith, that they were men of faith. And so they were doing that, as I believe, based on my faith, that they were doing that at God's behest to protect all of us from tyranny. And that's why I am not as concerned about the future as many people, because I believe that this is all in God's hands, and I have nothing to fear. And you should have nothing to fear either, because if you are living in Christ, you have nothing to fear. The outcome here can be bleak. We could have a terrible civil war and people could die. It doesn't matter. It's not going to change the outcome. The outcome is in God's hands. And I don't believe that that's what's going to happen, because I do believe that the American people are waking up, and I believe that there's a great revival that's taking place, both spiritually and intellectually. I think there's a great revival that's taking place. And I think that revival, spiritually and intellectually, is going to change the face of the planet. I really do believe that. So thank you for the question. I love talking about natural law.
Yes, it's good. So just things back and forth. Love you, Tom. Always learning, and always, as far as we know, America was the first in history to have constitutional rights for citizens.
That's right.
So upheld by the Constitution. So there you
go.
The
Magna Carta had some of it. But it was the Magna Carta was designed to limit the king's ability to basically take property and kind of give some rights to the peasantry, but they were still peasantry. And we are free people, and the Bill of Rights is actually a codification. I think it's very important that we tell people that it was to codify God's rights that God gave us as human beings for people who didn't believe in him.
Okay.
So there you go.
And thank you. Well, let's say a prayer and end of the stream today.
Do it.
Tomorrow I don't have broadcast. We'll be back on Wednesday, and I'll have Derek Gibson in. He has ran for governor of the state of New York. Then next day I have a couple of really interesting guests, Commander Jay Furman, as well as flight instructor. I got to think flight instructor Naval Flight Instructor Baron Reinhold, which will be really interesting to listen to those guys. And then Friday, we're back to our citizen journalist panel off the grid, and I might have some more special guests in there, but anyhow, I won't be on tomorrow. So you want to say prayer, or you want me to say prayer?
No, you go ahead.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so very much for everyone out there. And this time that we're in right now, we know that we don't need to see tomorrow. We don't need to have all of the answers. We know that you hold them. And we're here to be walking with you in whatever it is that you ask us to do, and with grace and mercy, but also with upholding the truth and living this life the way that you expect us to. And we thank you for that. We thank you for giving us the rules of living here, because it's your sandbox. We're not you. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. Everyone does. But we ask that you would confuse all the plans of the enemy, and that they would be in total chaos. That any of their plans, the plans of Satan himself, would be completely go awry, and that people would turn towards you. The main thing is that we want everyone to be able to spend eternity together with you as your children. And those people that are hurt, we ask that they would find healing in you, and the answers to the things that they're questioning every day. We're at peace with it. Doesn't matter to me. I know it doesn't matter to Tom so much, because we do know that you hold the future in your hands. You hold this day in your hands. No matter what happens, we can sit back and watch and say, that's okay. That's okay. God's got a hold of it. He's got a handle on it, and it's going to be okay. And we live with that peace that passes understanding every single day of our life. We give you this day, everything that we have. Everything that we have has always been yours anyway. So we're thankful for providing for us, for giving us people to care about us, and for guiding us, directing us, and giving us the salvation that comes in the name of your precious Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Thank you so much for being a great friend to us. We want to be a friend to you. We don't just want to be little sycophants down here asking you for things like the blessing, the Pez dispenser of blessings. We want to be here to serve you in your world, to do what it is that you want us to do, good works. We're thankful that you include us in that. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Okay.
Thank you. Perfect.
All right. Awesome. So there you go. Well, thank you so much for being on today, Tom. And I'm thankful for, bless Sandy and Candace and Jeff and Chris Deal, the big deal here today too. God bless them all. So thank you for being on today. This is where we go to Brandenburg-for-Governor.com, because I'm the best non-conceder who has ever not conceded, because I'm not going to concede to liars, cheats, and thieves who have been rigging our elections, putting out fake news, and steering the American people in all manners of bad things. We're not going to do that anymore. So with that said, God bless you all. God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. Make it a great day. It starts here. Get yourself mentally tough. I mean, this isn't about being like a little baby bird that everybody's giving you all the answers and throwing your bone all the time. Sometimes you just got to go out there and grab a hold of it and fight for it a little bit,
Right.
and don't apologize for being yourself. Don't apologize for that, because God made you as a unique person. He knew what he was doing. He doesn't make mistakes. You're not a mistake. Your thoughts aren't mistakes. You're working through it, and nobody gets to determine that except for God Almighty. He knows the steps of your life. He's ordered them, and he's the one that knows the end. That is truth. That is absolute truth. And we can count on that. So anyhow, have a great day. Make it one. If you don't have a good example, be one.
Amen.